Welcome to the Champion Motorsports iRacing Team Endurance Series, live from Circuit de la Sarre. Hi, my name is Taylor Burrs, and with me is my co-host Rachel Whiteford and our wonderful producer, Mr. Ryan Bauer, twisting the dials and tweaking the buttons to make sure that you get all the sights and sounds and storylines throughout today's event here at Circuit de la Sarre. Rachel, we are at such a hallowed ground, the birthplace of endurance motor racing. Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit more about this track, as well as some amazing people we have to thank?
Absolutely, of course, and welcome everybody to Circuit de la Sarre in France. And wow, what a storied, fantastic place, of course. Can't forget that we are in no small part due to Penguin RC, Gridfinder, RaceAware, and Complex Simworks. We'll talk more about those guys later. But Circuit de la Sarre, of course, which was named after the 1906 French Grand Prix, an original triangular circuit actually in Le Mans Sarthe in France. It's a obviously semi-permanent racetrack, which is normal roads most of the year, but it's closed to form the Circuit de la Sarre for the 24 Hours of Le Mans endurance race, 24-hour race, the world standard, if you will, of endurance racing. And the track is a formidable monster. First opened in 1923, it hosts not only, of course, the 24 Hours Le Mans, but MotoGP, hosted the French Grand Prix in 2000, and the 24 Hours of Le Mans Moto. Now, the track's lap record is held by Mike Conway in the Toyota in 2019, the LMP1 car, a 3-minute 17, which is insanely fast, as, of course, this place originally put down for the very first cars, the open-top first endurance cars, the Ferraris, the Porsches, from the 1920s onwards, forming a hotbed of motorsports development and innovation, of course. Now, don't forget there's also the permanent circuit nearby, the Bugatti circuit, which does share pit lane facilities in the first corner and the Dunlop Bridge, but not the full circuit, which, of course, is expanded using those public roads.
It certainly has not, and of course here, Rachel, at Circuit de la Sarre, this track provides innovation as we've seen through the decades, and as we're seeing here in the virtual world at this track, the continuation of improvement in the world of esports, as we're seeing one of the newer cars here that's been on the iRacing service for about a couple of build seasons now, but still fairly new when it comes to sports car racing, of course, the Dallara LMP2 car, and then of course we have our GTE class, which has of course the use of the Corvette C8R, the Porsche 911 RSR, BMW M8, and the Ferrari 488 GTE, which you will see all on the track, and also when of course they come here in August to compete at Circuit de la Sarre. So a lot of great racing action. Looking forward to seeing here how these drivers are going to handle at the 2 hours and 30-minute race here later on this season.
Absolutely is, and it's hard not to think about the storied history of this track when we see something like this. It's compared to every other racetrack, this isn't Daytona, this isn't even Silverstone, this isn't even Road Atlanta, this is Le Mans. It is holy ground for racers.
It certainly is, Rachel. I mean, this track, as we take a look once again at the details of this race, it's a 150-minute race, LMP2 and GTE cars, which we just talked about. The start time will be in the afternoon setting, and of course this is an open setup, so drivers are able to make adjustments needed to go as fast as possible. And as we look at qualifying right now, no surprise, Revo Satellite Racing, David Williams, once again at the top of the leaderboard with a 3-minute 29.783 here in the LMP2 class. And then in GTE, it's the United Performance Racing of Justin Hess leading with a 3-minute 48.099. And once we get started here, Rachel, we have our orange zone we have to talk about, of course, which will happen from the starting finish line here, working all the way to, of course, the first Mulsanne chicane once they get all going here. And then after that, it's a free-for-all to see who can survive and manage to survive this circuit.
Yeah, I'd say free-for-all is the wrong word to use here, but the orange zone's have been a great idea that this series has brought in to basically control the starts here. For that first lap, that zone is basically the, hey, keep your hands to yourself or you're going to HR zone. it stops people being a little bit too needy, a little bit too grabby, and going too far when it comes to trying to squeeze for early room, because one of the temptations is when the cars are all close together is to make those dives, get in position early, get track position. Now, that often leads to stupid moments where people do silly things, so the orange zone system actually works really well to temper those, should we say, aspirations until we have a little bit more stability for the drivers in terms of how things go. Of course, you can see part of the Bugatti circuit there, just behind the start-finish line. We're looking at Champion Motorsports, I think we had for a moment. That's Rebellion Racing we're on board with right now, going down the Mulsanne, as that is a main road actually in France, and of course you can't exactly forget the 98 Mark Webber flip in the Mercedes on this track. Of course, they added a lot of the chicanes to reduce speeds on the Mulsanne, but there was a time where there weren't chicanes, and do you remember that one, Taylor?
I certainly do. Of course, who is not able to forget the Mark Webber flip? In fact, matter of fact, while I was preparing for this race, I was actually watching some old history footage of Le Mans, and of course, the main one that he showed is, of course,
saw the camera.
Yeah,
the crest. Yeah, that's the car just lifted and soared out of the track, and I mean, I don't know what the feeling would be like to be upside down flying through the sky in a race car, but I'm sure you could ask anybody who's raced against. I've just gone and forgotten his name now. I'm so sorry. Maldonado, Pastor Maldonado. That's the one. Yes. Because I recall Mark Webber also going airborne with Pastor Maldonado in Barcelona in Formula One. He must be like, oh no, not this again. Why am I upside down in the air?
Well, also, if you think about it, if you go a little further back into the 70s, listening to some of the drivers talking about the speeds that they would have to negotiate before they installed the chicanes, 240, even 250 plus miles an hour on the Mulsanne straight, which is insane to think about. But yet the ingenuity of the cars nowadays, you could possibly still see these cars, maybe not in LMP2, but in the LMP1s, they definitely can hit speeds of over 200 miles an hour before they have to hit the brakes heading into the Mulsanne chicanes.
Absolutely, of course. Quick talk about some films. Don't forget Ford versus Ferrari, which was the tale of taking these cars to Le Mans, then the battle where Ford came in to build a car to contest against Ferrari domination. But we can't come here without talking about Le Mans, the 1971 classic, the Steve McQueen classic. It was amazing. It was Louise Freiberg, Siegfried Roche, Elgar Anderson, Ronald Leigh Hunt, but of course McQueen as Michael Delaney. A phenomenal film, absolutely amazing, and just this track and the story of racing, especially endurance racing, has really captured the hearts of, you know, the movie-going public and creators and storytellers that have told some amazing tales in endurance racing. And those two films stand out for me, especially here, because this is the crucible of motorsports.
It certainly is. And now it is time for your starting grid here for the event here in the European extent of the iRacing Team Endurance Championship. As we now see Revo Satellite Racing once again up on the front row with their setting of a pole time of a 3:29.783. They're going to be followed by CMS Pro Summit Team in second, followed by the TNT Racing Carbon. We'll have more information about them once we get started with the first lap of the race. In fourth position, Pneumatic Motorsports Blue, followed by Pneumatic Motorsports Purple in fourth and fifth position. Imperial Motorsports Shake will be starting in the sixth spot, followed by Rebellion Racing in the seventh position. And then eighth position is going to be SimHQ Motorsports 1, ninth DDM Racing, and then 10th is Penguin RC Complex Simworks in the 10th spot. We have 5 more prototypes left to go. In 11th will be Wildfire Racing Dragon, followed by Team Cosmos in 12th. Hard Promise Racing will be starting in 13th with WWZ Red in 14th. Rounding out your 15-car grid for the prototypes, Jakester Racing.
We've got 17 cars in the field for GTE today, with Unified Performance Racing in first place in class, Renault Alpine Racing starting on their outside. In third, SimHQ Motorsports 3 and their sister car, SimHQ Motorsports 2 on their outside on the second row. PG13 Racing in the fifth spot in class for the GTE, with Can-Am Canucks in the sixth position. Seventh is All Balls Racing, with eighth being Can-Am Express. Ninth, Longhorn Racing Lone Star, and Longhorn Racing on their outside behind them. In ninth, 10th is Team Breakfade, with Last Minute Racing 11th, Can-Am Racing, Triple R Racing, NGP Motorsports, and bringing up the rear, last but not least, MMTR and AutoX Sim Motorsports. Here we go. Big actual warm-up lap here, Taylor. I think it's going to be the tail of this one. We're starting quite far back.
We certainly are. 32 cars starting, of course, today's race. And if we're looking correctly on the track map, we are just about to enter in towards the Porsche curve. So a little bit further back than normally. We won't do the full lap here on the pace field. So, of course, gives us a little time to talk a little bit more about some of the history here. We hope to bring you all the storylines that will ensue throughout the duration of today's race. And we hope that you all enjoy it. If you have questions, please don't forget to make sure you hashtag #AskTheBooth. We'll be glad to talk and have a little bit of fun with you guys here as we bring you the coverage of the CMS iRacing Team Endurance Series here at Circuit de la Sarthe.
Absolutely will, and I can't wait for this one to start. It's going to be an amazing race. These cars are going to be fantastic, but we will see an extended period of time before we really see any actual lapping take place here between the two classes with just how big the lap time is. 3.5 minutes for the LMP2 class, and nearly 3 minutes 50 for the GTE cars. So we're going to see a very separated grid, but it's going to be the story of battles between these cars and how they work these cycles, of course. This track is hard on tires. It's going to be a very interesting tale.
Punishing is probably the key word for these cars and drivers who have to try and master this track. If you don't show the respect that this circuit deserves, you will be out of the race as they go underneath the Ford bridge, heading through the Ford chicanes up ahead. Pace car will pull off, and we will go racing for 2 hours and 30 minutes. As we watch and see a little bit of separation between both fields of cars, as we know, to give everyone a little bit of a chance to try and survive through the orange zone and at least the first lap. Pace car is about to make the hard right turn into the pit road, and we are about to go racing. Green flag is out, and we are underway here for the Circuit de la Sarthe for 2 hours and 30 minutes as we watch the field work their way up through the field. CMS Pro Racing actually gets a great start over the red and yellow, but we're going to go 3 wide for the battle now as we keep an eye. CMS Pro drops the third. Pneumatic Motorsports Blue decides to get into the mix. They will lead as they head a little bit of sideways for Revo contact indeed as they are trying to get themselves sorted out. So major implications for 2 of the heavy hitters of the team, and they're still trying to get it as they go under the Dunlop Bridge.
Yeah, that's going to be reviewed by race control, I suspect, but the GTE class having a much cleaner run through. Unified and Renault Alpine getting through nice and cleanly at the very front. In fact, they've already got a bit of a gap as they head down from the Dunlop Bridge. Oh, big contact at the rear in your GTE field as we had a big moment with Longhorn Lone Star and a huge swerve by the 77 of All Balls Racing, who, well, frankly, ballsed it up. They just came darting off the racetrack and pit maneuvered the Longhorn Lone Star car. Went off the track themselves. Longhorn Lone Star goes sideways, and unfortunately some contact in the smoke for, I'm trying to work out who that was right now, but it was one of the other GT Ferraris, the 44 machine. Couldn't see anything. Longhorn Racing sister car couldn't see their sister in the smoke, and kablamo.
Tough break for the GTE competitors in the back half of the field as you're on board with the second place driver of Jack Chrissy, as we now see the LMP2s and GT snaking their way out of the first of the 2 Mulsanne chicanes, and you have 3 wide battling for the second position right now. Pneumatic Motorsports Blue of Jason Lundy leads them into the, as we have contact a little further back, I believe, in the LMP2. That's several cars involved that they're trying to get themselves organized, but I believe that includes one of the drivers, SimHQ of James Andrew, and then I believe the Wildfire Racing Dragon of George Dean involved in this incident as they come out of the second of the Mulsanne chicanes, heading now into Mulsanne corner.
Yeah, it was a solo spin for the 12 who put himself across the track there. He rolled out the way, but unfortunately had a sympathetic spin and 2 cars contacted behind him trying to get out of the way of a crash that was no longer in the track. So that got real hairy all of a sudden as the GT E-cars are finally finding their way towards the back of the, actually, wow, they're already at the back of the LMP2 class from those cars that have had spins. So the GT field there, Unified Performance Racing, Renault Alpine, already pulling a significant gap on 3rd and 4th there. as we've got a slowdown, I think, from SimHQ3, who's just let their sister car past, and PG13, as they're going to make advantage of this one. And wow, that got kind of crazy kind of quick.
It certainly did. We have a battle right now for the LMP2 class lead, and overall, they just came out of Arnage, working their way down this next straightaway here before they head towards the Porsche curve. Revo Satellite Racing's David Williams was able to sneak the lead away from Jason Lundy, but Lundy's going to come back to the inside as they work their way through the Porsche curves. Side by side, they now dive back to single file as they work their way towards the back half here, trying to come to the final few corners in chicane before we finally complete a very interesting and exciting lap number one. A lot of big implications happening here, Rachel, as we saw throughout the field as they work their way through the Ford chicanes and make their way down to complete lap number one.
Yeah, certainly are, of course, coming towards the end of that first lap, and it's been a tumultuous one already. I think we're going to see something different, but you've got some amazing camera angles here, of course. Look at those beautiful angles there. The rear diffuser camera angle there, we've got them just on the front wheel arch. Amazing cameras by Dougie Beard, as always, showing you the very best, closest racing action you could possibly get in this sim. Love how those look, absolutely phenomenal. Really brings you into the action as the GTE field now coming to the Ford chicane and the start-finish line, as we've got a couple of cars pitting from the LMP2 field. Still going to be Unified Performance Racing leading the way with Justin Hess as penalties start to occur. We, of course, had some penalties from last round that we do need to talk about here, Taylor. Brake fade, team brake fade. The 40 car has a driver change enforced. The H2 TNT Carbon has a stop and hold for 5 seconds, and the 61 of DDM Racing has a 20-second stop and hold from last round.
Also, some other implications happening as well. The CMS Pro Summit team of Chris Kymailer has just came down, I believe, pit road briefly as well to get some damage repair after that lap one incident as they were working their way towards the Dunlop Bridge. He's now in heavy GTE traffic, having to work his way back up through the field to catch up. Meanwhile, it is a battle for the race lead once again between David Williams and Jason Lundy. This is probably one of the closest battles we've seen all season amongst the LMP2. Usually with Revo Satellite Racing, they get up towards the front of the field and they pull away. But here, it seems to be a different story as the Pneumatic Motorsports blue team of Lundy, he's going to have the implications in this battle here as they work their way towards the second of the two Mulsanne chicanes before they come out of there. Still nose to tail as they make the run to Mulsanne.
Absolutely are, of course. And the Mulsanne has, well, saw a lot of action. That orange zone is going to be a very busy time for reviews by the race control team after that first lap, as I'm pretty sure everyone ignored the fact that we told them to behave themselves. HR will be getting very busy. But keep my eye here on Pneumatic Motorsports Blue, as they are right up behind Revo Satellite, still very, very close. We actually still have a battle for the lead here.
We certainly do. They have come out of Mulsanne. They're now making the run towards Indianapolis as they use this front straightaway here. Of course, these LMP2 cars don't really have anything like what you would see the P1 cars. They don't have any boost where they can be able to pull up. They have to utilize the draft. As we see, Lundy gets a good run from the slipstream. He'll duck to the outside. He'll have inside lane advantage, though, when they get into Indianapolis, but Williams powers on through on the outside to hold on as they make the quick run to Arnage as they drop from over 100 miles an hour down to about 50 miles an hour. So great, incredible driving from both the drivers to put on a good show.
Got to keep an eye on Imperial Motorsports Shake too. They're not too far behind here. If these guys battle anymore, they'll be right on this. But Pneumatic on that clean air, they want the head of this thing going. But we're looking right now at P2 in the GTE, or P1 and P2. Unified Performance and Renault Alpine here. So it's Justin Hess and Jack Chrisley. Of course, Renault Alpine Racing, this is almost their home race for them, as we see the backward camera there looking towards P2 and the Renault Alpine Racing Corvette. Renault Corvette, yep, I mean, that makes sense. Still, I
still don't know.
We'll go with that. We'll pretend it's a Renault. I mean, at least this Renault actually works because it's a Corvette. Sorry, that was unfair of me. No, it wasn't. Never mind.
No.
Totally appropriate. I've had Renaults before. They sucked. Anyway, moving on. It's still the closest battle we've had here so far from those guys, and they're really pushing this one. We're seeing a lot of separation already, but this is something we expect to see at Le Mans. It's a very big track, and drivers are going to be pacing themselves here because this is 150 minutes. Sure, it's not a 24-hour, but they have to run to their schedule and their pit cycle, of course, and they want to make sure they're actually hitting those numbers. as we have DDM Racing hitting pit road for what I'm expecting is their penalty here. That'll be the 20-second stop and hold for them now. That's Matthew Overton hitting pit road. As still keeping my eye on this lead battle in LMP1 because this is super close.
It certainly is, Rachel, as we watch them come out of Tetra Rouge and head down Mulsanne. You have to be careful with coming out of Tetra Rouge, Rachel, with these cars, and any car you run here at Circuit de la Sarre. You could very easily cut the course even just by a little bit, and you have to serve a time penalty. So you have to make sure that you hit your mark completely in order to get enough momentum to carry you down Mulsanne, but also not get that time penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tetra Rouge is the last place you want to get a time penalty heading onto the Mulsanne, as the LMP2 car passing your GTE leaders really just caused an opening here for Renault Alpine Racing, as they're getting closer and closer here to Unified Performance Racing.
Certainly is right now. It's about a 4/10 of a second gap as they are now to enter Tetra Rouge. And it is a Chevrolet versus Ferrari battle as they come out of there to head down Mulsanne. This is a good opportunity for Jack Chrissy and the Renault Alpine Chevrolet. I'm still having a tough time trying to say that properly as they work their way down Mulsanne. Tries to get a slipstream off the Ferrari of Justin Hess as they work their way down. Still not close enough to maybe make a pass, but if he's able to get a good run out of the first Mulsanne chicane, he could put on a good fight with Justin Hess as they work their way to the second of the two Mulsanne chicanes.
I think that's going to be his best opportunity here to do something with this, is trying to just build that speed on the corner exit. And that's all what straights are in motor racing. It's not about how fast your car can go, it's about how fast you exit corners, and every corner isn't about how fast you enter them. In fact, the slower you enter sometimes, the better you can exit the corner. It's all about corner exit, because every corner exit sets you up for a run or a second corner, so it's about positioning for those corners. And we're seeing a good run here by Renault Alpine Racing. They're getting a little bit closer, but it's not really close enough yet. But I do want to touch on one thing here. Something that's bugged me for a long time.
Oh, do tell.
I don't like the C8 Corvette.
You don't?
No.
Why is
I
that?
don't like it. It's mid-engined, and it's wrong. It's a Corvette. It's meant to have a big long snout with a front-mounted engine. Yes, I know that's technically old technology, and it's not making it competitive with the mid-engined other cars in class, but come on.
You missed the sound of the V8.
C7, the big, beefy V8 with the long nose on the car. That was a true Corvette. Seeing those guys dominating the C7s at Le Mans and in IMSA and the C6s in the American Le Mans series. Yes, I remember even American Le Mans. I'm old. That was just... I mean, I sound biased here. As a Brit, this sounds weird, but that was true American motorsports to me. You know, that was a Corvette.
Could not agree with you more on that, Rachel. I mean, I've had the opportunity to watch the C7s take their first race at Le Mans, or at Daytona, I should say, and just as we watch on here, the battle for P8 in LMP2, but those Corvettes are always going to make a mark with their big, throaty V8 engines, as you see Jake Burgon in the Team Cosmos number 42 LMP2 car trying to hold off a Wildfire Racing Dragon of George Dean as they make the run towards the Ford chicanes right now. Dean had a little bit of an issue early on, making a self-spin in the second of the two Mulsanne chicanes, but is able to recover to work his way back into the top 10 as we see Burgon go a little bit curb hopping, able to keep it on the track and continue on his way, but this is going to be a good battle to keep an eye on as they work their way across the start-finish line. We still keep an eye, though, Rachel, on this GTE battle as Chrissy is definitely putting the pressure on.
Yeah, absolutely is, and oh my god, I'm sorry, I sound a little bit out of breath all of a sudden. My partner just brought in my dinner, which was a Thai curry, and didn't tell me that particular part of it was so hot that I now can't breathe because my mouth is on fire. Welcome to Endurance Commentary, where you have to eat at the same time as commentating. And it is a skill in its own right. Yes, F's in the chat, please.
Major F's in chat.
Oh my god, my voice! It's hot. This is really hot. Oh god.
Well, hopefully we don't lose your voice.
We hope not, but why am I still talking? Say something while
you do that. I will bring on the coverage on this race battle for the GTE lead as they come out towards the, I believe I've just passed the Dunlop curve, so we'll see what they do as they work their way towards Tetra Rouge. You're on board with the Renault Alpine Racing of Jack Chrissy in his number 69 Corvette as they work through these couple of chicanes here, heading to Tetra Rouge. Justin Hess having a great run right now, just holding off, not pulling away, but still keeping a little bit of a gap between the two competitors as they work their way down Mulsanne. course, some great camera angles by Dougie Beard as they work their way down the Mulsanne straight, heading to the first of the 2 Mulsanne chicanes. Of course, some of us might remember those who watched some of the races at Le Mans back in the 80s and 70s. Cars almost getting more than just airborne. Maybe not airborne like Mark Webber did in the Mercedes back in the late 90s, but definitely can see some of the cars get a little bit lifted up as they crest over the hill as they work their way through the Mulsanne chicane number 1 and head down the rest of Mulsanne.
Yeah, absolutely. Mulsanne is probably the most famous straight on this track. It's absolutely a historic piece of racetrack, and it's iconic to see the cars shooting down that long straight. Absolutely beautiful to see, of course. As Renault Alpine Racing in the P2 class, they are still right on the back here of Unified Performance Racing. This is really close right now, and I gotta say, it's the closest battle we actually have in the entirety of the GTE field right now is gonna be affected here, as we've got DDM Racing and Penguin RC's Complex Simworks both coming up behind them from the LMP2 class who've served penalties, and they're going to be making this interesting because they might actually bottle these 2 cars up and force a battle.
Certainly so, as they now make the run to Mulsanne. We see the DDM get around Justin Hess, and now will we see Christian Oss in the Penguin RC Complex Simworks P2 try to take a move. He's going to go to the inside of Justin Hess. Hess gives him plenty of room to allow them to continue on and do battle as they work their way back up through the field. As well, we still see, though, that Jack Christie lost a little bit of time with those LMP2s getting around him now. It was up to 4/10, now it's up to 6/10 of a second, as now those drivers are now just trying to do battle. Pretty much that is, like you said, Rachel, the only battle in GTE. Everybody else is anywhere between 4 to 2 to maybe even 7 to 13 seconds. Looking through the LMP2 field quickly as we touch base on it, it's no changes up front of the field. It is still going to be Revo Satellite Racing's David Williams, 2 seconds lead over Jason Lundy. But if we look a little first position, George Dean, Nick Kuhn, and then also throw in James Andrew. So you have 3 P2 cars battling right now, as looks like Dean gets a little bit loose out of the 4 chicanes. That's going to allow Nick Kuhn in the Hard Promise Racing P2, as well as James Andrew. Remember, we talked about him early, also getting involved in a self-spin through the second Mulsanne chicane. He's going to also work his way by. So we have a 3-car battle here for this 8th spot. And more contact as those 2 get together, as Andrew just loses control of his P2 car and makes stiff contact right there with George Dean, as Dean had nowhere to go. So a tough break for the 2 P2 drivers, as they're going to have to crawl their way back to pit road.
Yeah, certainly are, of course, and we've been seeing this happen. People need to give each other more room. I'm going to replay the track there. It's coming through the chicane there, and bam. Just not paying attention to what the other cars are, unfortunately. It does leave you with a situation where you have to keep your eyes on a swivel and keep your eyes on that relative, of course, for these drivers. You know, their spotters are telling them where other cars are. You've got to give room. It's just going to be unfortunate if you try and take that corner when you aren't right. I think we're seeing here on the camera we just saw there, I think he might have just spun it a little bit while he was entering the corner, perhaps, Taylor?
Yeah, looking at how the car is angled and everything, he overdrove it going into the first set of the chicanes there, and then when he was trying to correct it, he overcorrected a little too much, had a little bit of wheel spin in that situation, and of course lost control of his P2 car. And those 2 are still going to go side by side now as they work their way to the second Mulsanne chicane, and quite a bit of damage to both P2 cars. They're going to have to come down pit road and see if they can get their fix as they go to the second Mulsanne chicane. They're going to go single file this time and not lose control of their race cars, which is good to see, and make the run to Mulsanne corner.
Yeah, certainly are here, of course, and looking for a move there early on the inside. Oh, they're looking at a different car here, but no, they're trying to. He's just not got enough room yet, I don't think. He's going to duck to the outside. Can he get it done? Inside for the corner, and through he goes.
So move George Dean up to the 10th position over James Andrew as they come out of Mulsanne and make the run towards Indianapolis. As we still keep it up to date, let's go a little further up the road. Christian Rava, Drake Bergone have a good battle right now, actually. The Team Cosmos driver and the Jigster Racing driver are working their way through. It's a good battle here, as we just saw Rava get passed by Drake Bergone as they enter into Arnage. As they work their way down the straightaway here, heading towards the Porsche curve. A good battle indeed.
I'm very disappointed their names are Christian and Gabriel. Nobody's called Jake in that team. I feel
I agree. I do feel robbed on that matter. Where is Jake?
Yeah, where is Jake? What did you do with him?
As we have another battle right now to bring out right quick. It is between the Penguin RC Complex Simworks and DDM, Christian Ost and Matthew Overton as they work their way up into Indianapolis, the bank corner here. As Overton tries to see if he can make ground, but not able to, as Christian Ost able to get, a little lockup right there into Arnage. That allows Overton to try to get in there. He sends it a little bit too deep, but has loose time on Christian Ost as they come out of Arnage and work their way over to the Porsche curve. So keep an eye on that battle in LMP2.
Yeah, certainly is still a good one. Of course, those two cars out of position because of penalties from last round. Looking at the lead, though, yeah, looking at GTE in the lead, it's still pretty tight here. Really, really tight. These guys are still on top of each other, and it's not really changed all race long. We're on our 5th lap right now, and that has been super close.
It certainly has been, Rachel. These two have just been testing the waters, trying to find the right opening, at least for Jack Chrissy to get around Justin Hess. But as they work their way underneath the Michelin Bridge and heading through the final set of corners here, actually going through the Corvette corner, as they work through here, hitting their marks and try to survive, we see that Hess has just been running a very consistent line, not pushing the car. And same thing with Chrissy. He's been consistent in some points of the track compared to Justin Hess, but able to still keep pace as they work their way towards the Ford chicanes.
That's always been the thing, though, with Unified Performance Racing. They've always had consistency on their side. They just run a clean race. Those guys have just been very calm, very collected. Justin Hess and Kurt Boltier, they just do it right. They just drive the car. They don't worry about who's behind them. And I think that's perhaps Renault Alpine Racing is seeing a chance here. They're maybe going to drop off in a couple of laps here because they're pushing a lot hard as he goes wide. He goes wide, and through comes Renault Alpine Racing. Right as I said that, Jack Chrissy takes opportunity from a small mistake, and he just jumps that spot. Now in the lead.
Let's take a look at the replay of that pass for the lead right there, Rachel, as we see what happens. But we now have a new race leader in GTE, Jack Chrissy in the Renault Alpine Racing Corvette. You'll see right here as they come across the start-finish line, Justin Hess in that United Performance Racing Ferrari makes a little bit of a mistake heading through the Dunlop curve as they try to go, gets a little bit wide, runs wide. That allows Chrissy to make the move to the inside and complete the pass. As we now see, this is them coming up towards the Dunlop curves. You'll see Justin Hess get a little bit wide while entering, gets loose as well, and that allows Chrissy to go to the inside, snake back out, and continue on his way to about, right now, a 0.6 of a second lead over the United Performance Racing Ferrari.
I mean, that's not going to be a lot of time, of course, still within draft window too, but we've seen a lot of guys mess that corner up, actually. It's the first real big corner they've got here on the track from the start-finish line, and it's a cresting, sharp left. So it's cresting... Well, it's hard left with the actual apex being over the crest. So it really makes a difficult corner to set up for. It's very much a memory corner. You've got to be braking at the right place for it coming up the hill, which can often throw drivers off, especially when you're battling and you're keeping an eye on the rearview mirror. We've seen a lot of people slip all over the field as looking at P3 here for GT, the two SimHQ cars are back together, which is where we often see them in this series. They're running together. They like each other. They're good friends. I believe they're on the same team, so I'd hope they were. But Paul Hale and Nolan Kinslow there in the 2 and 3 cars, they are just running head to tail. I would say it's a battle here per se, but they're maybe about a second apart.
About 0.6 of a second apart. They're probably just trying to work together to see if they can find a way to catch up to the top two, and then maybe a little bit of help to each other out to get around the two cars in front of them of Justin Hess and Jack Chrissy. Couple of other battles to point out a little further back. Battle in 11th position between Brian Blanchette and Team Breakfade trying to go to the inside of NGP Motorsports' Vinny Lima as they work their way into the second Mulsanne chicane. And as they work their way through, we will see Blanchette get the position over, move him up into the 11th position in class. Vinny Lima drops back to 12th.
Yeah, certainly has. And, well, looking at the positioning right now, it's still getting pretty close amongst these guys. They're doing what they can, of course, to race this thing, but at the moment it's still a matter of just trying to keep yourself on track. Run to that first window, of course, in our pit cycle, and make sure you get the car into the right place for it.
Certainly so, as we are approaching the first of 30 minutes here and completed here, 7 minutes before we get to the 2-hour mark here, as we keep an eye on this battle for the 11th position. Of course, these two drivers are still battling it out as they work their way through, but we have another battle in P2 between Nick Kuhn and Everett Haddock, TNT Racing Carbine versus Hard Promise Racing. They're now coming out of the first of the two Mulsanne chicanes, as we now see Paddock work his way to the back bumper as they utilize the slipstream down Mulsanne. He'll take a peek possibly to the inside, which he will do now as they head towards the braking zone of the Mulsanne chicane number 2, and Paddock will get the position before they even get to the braking zone.
Yeah, well, they were out of position, of course. They qualified third, so we know they have speed. They had a penalty, a 5-second penalty, I believe it was, stop and hold, so they are out of position slightly from that. They're not allowed to take fuel or tyres during their stops, so it is unfortunately just basically a drive-through at a stop. So we expect them to make their way further forwards. They're doing what they can, and well, they made their way through. But pit stops, of course, are going to be the most important part of this race for these drivers, and it's all about how you do that. And a lot of the time, it's down to the equipment you're using, which gives me a good opportunity to talk about Penguin RC, one of the title sponsors here of the series today. Penguin RC make high-quality, affordable simulation products for all sim racers. Their main products including wheel and button boxes, crafted to excellence and care. Their line of products is continually being expanded as the sim racing community expands, especially during these times. Their most popular unit is the PS Mod _1 box, which is universal to almost all controllers. You can use it with anything. Penguin RC won't produce anything at a price they wouldn't personally pay. See for yourself how beautifully manufactured their work is at their website, penguinrc.com. That is penguinrc.com. And I'll tell you what, the button boxes are a lifesaver when it comes to pitting in endurance racing or even oval racing, road racing, anything. Having a button box, it changes your life, Taylor, when you can just go boop, 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 hitting different buttons to set up what tires you want, what menu options you want to go through those pit menus. It just makes the life so much easier now to click your mouse.
It certainly does, Rachel. I mean, I have my eyes set on a button box, and I'm definitely going to be going to the penguinrc.com website in order to get my button box to help improve with my strategy for pit stops. As we watch on board with Nolan Kinslow, the CMHQ Motorsports 2 Corvette driver, as they work down Mulsanne. Hasn't hit top gear just yet. He's in the 5th gear right now. Now he just goes into top gear as he works his way down Mulsanne. And you know, Rachel, I gotta say, the technology that we see in sports car racing, actually Corvette was a big staple with that. You notice that camera that you see right there, the rear view camera. Corvette was actually one of the first to implement that in their cars back in when they first started coming into at Le Mans. And it has helped them drastically, where now every GTE car and P2 car utilizes this to help them to avoid making contact with drivers behind them.
Yeah, absolutely does. It really definitely makes a big difference, but I'm trying to find out what happened with LMP2, because we've seen a lead change that I don't know where it happened. It's more than a lap and a half ago, which I'm pretty sure was just after we talked about the leaders in LMP2, as Jason Lundy, of course, had made a move there. Actually, no,
Lundy still is.
Lundy was leading. I am sorry, I'm having a stroke right now. Okay, I can smell toast. Renault Alpine passed Unified Performance in LMP2,
Yes.
GTE, sorry. There's been no change in the LMP2 lead. However, I can say safely right now, that gap is significant. 4 seconds as Revo have just cleared off into the sunset.
And you know, Rachel, even with that damage that they got to the rear of their P2 car, they're still pulling away lap after that issue. So I'm surprised it's not affecting anything major to the back end of the car. And they are working their way through some GTE traffic as they come out of Mulsanne. I believe that driver was, if I'm looking at timing and scoring correctly, as they now work their past Larry Ford in the Longhorn Racing. Still a couple of cars out on there. I just could not figure out who that they passed recently for our race leader.
Absolutely is, and wow, this one's still becoming a very interesting affair at the moment. 2 seconds between Unified and Renault. That's, of course, a big factor there. And just behind them, we're looking about 5-6 seconds back to the SimHQ Motorsports 2 Smurfs. Smurf siblings, the two blue cars sitting right behind them with their very plaid-looking liveries. Maybe they're thinking plaid will help them go faster. Normally works.
Well, it helped the FAF guys at Sebring over the weekend.
It did, yes, and it also helped Helmet Head, but unfortunately just not enough that time. I gotta go there. When someone's so plaid and going fast, you've got to do it.
Oh, of course. You have to go
Get
there.
ludicrous speed. That's the most important one.
You have to go ludicrous speed at Le Mans. We've seen and of course, we've seen people who try to go past ludicrous speed. What usually happens to them? Yep, Mark Webber.
What happened to him? He flew. Sorry,
literally.
This is what it turns into. It turns into this Radio Le Mans style silliness when we do this particular broadcast. We like to cover the hardcore racing, of course, but we know the endurance viewers are not the short attention span viewers of sprint racing. They are
have fun,
intelligent. They are smart people. They enjoy good racing, but they enjoy it to take a good amount of time, and they enjoy the subtleties of a good conversation between the casters whilst they're actually on the broadcast, between watching cars go round and round a second. We know endurance racing, you're not going to have a battle every 5 seconds. That's not what it's about. It's not what this sport is about. It's about teams that are going to make the distance, and you know what? We will talk about any old crap as long as it keeps you guys entertained.
Of course we will, and of course we also have the thing where we have hashtag Ask the Booth. Make sure if you have a question for us, tell us what your favorite moments were at the Circuit de la Sarthe over the decades and years to come of racing. Of course, in a couple of years, Rachel, we'll be talking about 100 years at this circuit. Can you imagine 100 years?
That's an insane amount of time for a racetrack, but we also looked at the same thing for Indianapolis, don't forget, already.
Yeah, Indianapolis, of course, one of the oldest racing circuits still used today, as they have been, I believe this will be their 108th race of the season, or 108th annual?
Yes. 2012, I think?
I believe so, because 1912 was...
Yeah, 2012. Crazy history of motorsports, isn't it? Considering we only invented cars just over 100 years ago, in the very early, or the very late, shall we say, 1800s, early 1900s, and to where car technology is now. That motorsports, of course, has always been something at the forefront of development, pushing new technology. Of course, we talk about, KERS in Formula One, and ERS, of course, bringing itself into endurance racing now with the LMP1 cars, and energy recovery to power boost in race cars is that brake power is basically charging up hybrid power systems in cars today for you, the consumer. So that technology finds its way into making our world a little bit better.
Certainly does, and if you think about it, with all the new regulations coming out, of course, as we know, with, of course, the LMH as well as the LMDH that's coming into play here in a couple of years' time, we see the constant change of motorsports and esports itself, with how we see people in the world of motorsports utilizing, the iRacing service as well as SimStep. If we keep an eye on this battle for the 8th position in GTE, Rachel, a good battle, and as a matter of fact, is between Last Minute Racing's Julie Redmond and Can-Am Express Mick Blue, as you're on board with another driver in the 10th position, so make it a 3-car battle, the Auto X Sim Motorsports of Michael Parker.
Yeah, those guys started right towards the rear, but they've worked their way forwards here. They didn't set a qualifying time, but they're moving up. They're up 7 positions right now, and they're still going for it. That BMW is charging hard. I believe we just got told 2 seconds quicker last time by than the last minute motorsports car ahead of them, so that is a significant advantage. Or actually, that's faster than the Can-Am car, I should say.
Yeah, as they come across the line now, he's about a second faster than Mick Ballou in the Can-Am Express, but about 2 seconds off the pace of Julie Redmond in the Last Minute Racing as they work their way underneath the Dunlop Bridge, an iconic area we've seen in the world of motorsports. Of course, you can remember the issue that happened with the Audi. That happened back in 2014, where it just completely went off circuit and caused a major incident in the opening hours at the Circuit de la Sarthe a couple of years ago, Rachel. And of course, as they work their way through Tetra Rouge, we can know of several different incidents and amazing moments that happen in the world of motorsports here at this track.
Yeah, most certainly. And of course, it is kind of tragic to touch on what happened in the 50s at Le Mans, which actually cancelled the race for a while. Motorsports used to be an incredibly dangerous pastime, not just for the drivers, but for the fans. And there have been countless incidents, of course, at tracks, but it just goes to show how every time an incident does occur in motorsports, it goes into making it safer for everybody involved. And yeah, sure, the back of your ticket does say motorsports is dangerous, but they're doing what they can to make it safer for every single person. And this may be a public road all year, but the Armco, for example, and the barriers are there all year. They exist all the time because this track has been modernized so much, and those chicanes on a Mulsanne were literally put in there to reduce speeds overall on the straight to make people safer.
Certainly so. I mean, if you think about it, Rachel, like we talked about earlier with the Mark Webber incident, personally, if something like that I thought were to happen, I would have thought possibly that Mark Webber would no longer be with us today. But due to the fact of the major safety modifications that they make to the cars, to the track, as well as even also the rescue crews to get there quickly, and the Hans device, of course, I don't think the Hans device was available back in the late 90s yet, but the modifications that they made helped save Mark Webber's life and allowed him to keep on racing to where he was able to clinch a win at this circuit many years later.
Yeah, it certainly was, of course. Mark Webber, incredible driver to have driven in Formula 1 and endurance, but we've got some real racing up here. P7 right now in your LMP2 class. Oh, GT class as well, sorry. We're looking at, I believe it is last
That's
minute.
Nick Kuhn.
And... yes, okay. We're getting confusing messages in our ears, but we have got some BMW battling actually back here between last minute and I think that's not all balls. That could be a lap car there. I'm trying to work out who he's running with. I think that is a lap car, so never.
That is actually AutoX Sim Motorsports, Rachel, of Michael Parker. We talked about him briefly. He did not qualify during the beginning of the race today, but here he is working his way up through the field inside the top 10 finally after he got around Mick Blue in the Can-Am Express. As they work their way down towards the Porsche Curves, he's had a good run right now, but can't seem to get around Julie Redmond in that 57 as Redmond goes a little bit wide through there as they go underneath the Michelin Bridge. He might be able to make a run here as they come out of the final couple of corners.
Yeah, could be trying to find something, but he's definitely have to work at it to get something to go with this one, and it's still very much up for grabs. I'm also surprised to see how much Alpine have really pulled away here, and the previous winners, of course, we always wonder if there's different winners, but this might be the first time we see someone other than Unified Performance Racing winning the GTE class. We're looking at Alpine putting on an absolute stomping here now they've gotten through.
Speaking of, we can talk about previous winners. The last time we were racing, we were at, of course, Sebring International Raceway. And, of course, we know Justin Hess was the last winner. Of course, he's the defending winner. He's won the last two races at both Daytona and Sebring. But right now, struggling to see if he can keep up with the race win here at Le Mans, or at Circuit de la Sarthe. As we see them here, he's struggling to try to catch up with Jack Chrissy in that Renault Alpine Racing. As they work their way through, another driver who we also need to touch base on is the previous winner of the last two rounds of the P2 class, which is David Williams and the Revo Satellite Racing and Paul Darling. Those two have been having a dominant performance as they are now on pit road along with the rest of your top five in LMP2. So, Rachel, pit stop time.
Yeah, they're all diving in together here. Every single one of them. We've got Rebellion, Pneumatic Purple, Imperial Shake, Pneumatic Blue, Revo. Everyone's hit pit road, and I can't see where they are because of their silly podium building, but Revo gets off quickly. First out of pit road, up heading towards the Dunlop Bridge now. We should see, Pneumatic coming out as well. Imperial Shake are just pulling away. And it's the last couple of cars coming out from that group that just pitted. We should be seeing people like the CMS Pro Summit pitting soon, but they're actually staying out for another lap. But they're heading the Mulsanne now. They'll be actually your current race leader.
Certainly so, as they were on pit road actually about 9 laps ago because they came down pit road to fix some of that damage, but they probably will be coming down pit road here within the next lap or so as you're on board with Chris Kymailer in the CMS Pro Summit team as they work his way down Mulsanne as we keep an eye on that. Hitting speeds of 203 miles an hour before having to hit the brakes to go to about, let's say about 75 miles an hour to get through the first Mulsanne chicane, and then back up onto power. But from 203 to 75, that brake has to definitely be working quite well for you.
Yeah, and that's something I wish iRacing actually took into account here is brake temperature and brake fade on the cars. It's something that I think they're working towards for the future, but that's a huge management thing when it comes to racing, because you might swap tyres, but you're not going to swap brakes, and those pads can get worn, those discs can get very hot, and they can swell, and it can change how the cars run and how they brake.
And as we are now approaching the first round of pit stops, it is time to get started with your Penguin RC race report. And as we see is CMS Pro Summit Team Chris Kymailer in the race lead right now, but has to come down pit road in order to get himself serviced in fuel and continue on his way. But he is currently your race leader in the LMP2 class right now. Second place, Revo Satellite Racing, your pole sitter of David Williams right now, currently in second, has been leading before the cycle of pit stops began in car 67, looking to see if he will retake the lead once we see the CMS Pro Summit Team make their way down pit road. Third position is the Pneumatic Motorsports Blue of Jason Lundy, the only driver really to challenge the Revo Satellite Racing team and for battling for the race lead, as he is now sitting in third, 20 seconds back from your race leader. In fourth position, the Imperial Motorsports Shake of Lee Peterson, as well as Christopher Pies. Mr. Chip up on the box trying to see if he can get his drivers up inside a podium finish here today at Circuit de la Sarthe. Fifth position, the sister car, the Pneumatic Motorsports Purple, Robert Tarbox, currently having a quiet run inside the top 5 since the drop of the green flag, working his way up towards Indianapolis as he's about 37 seconds back from your race leader. Sixth position, the Rebellion Racing, John Taylor Tammy right now having a quiet run, having to see if he can make up ground to get into the top 5. He's currently about 5.3 seconds back from the Pneumatic Motorsports Purple. P7, we're going to go to the TNT Racing Carbon team. That's driven by Everett Paddock. They had to serve a penalty at the opening of today's race from the last round at Sebring as they continue on their way. Have recovered nicely inside the top 10. Eighth position, Team Cosmos of David Santiago currently holds on to the 8th position pretty much by himself. We saw him have a couple of great battles early on in the going here at Circuit de la Sarthe, but now is in by himself trying to survive as they come out of Indianapolis. A little further back though, you will find Jakester Racing and Christian Rava trying to see if he can catch up and get into this battle here to move into the 8th position, as we see SimHQ Motorsports 1's James Andrew in hot pursuit of him as well. 11th position, Hard Promise Racing's Wayne Hutchinson currently is now the new driver in that plaid LMP2 car. We saw Nick Kuhn in it earlier, but now they decided to do a driver swap early on. DDM Racing, Matthew Overton, a driver who had to serve a penalty early on in the going. They are running in P12, having a tough break right now as they continue on their way. 13th position, WWZ Red, Robert Cottle is not too far back from him as well. About, I would say, 3 seconds separate the two drivers. As we go back to 14th position, Brian Sohn is now in the Penguin RC Complex SimWorks LMP2 after Christian Ost was in the car early. But we now see a driver swap early on in the going between a couple of P2 drivers, with Kevin Galvin rounding out your 15-car field for the Wildfire Racing Dragon, as he is riding shotgun in the LMP2 class. Rachel?
Looking at the GTE class tonight, we have Jack Chrisley after the great pass early on for the Renault Alpine Racing team. They are currently P1 in class in that 69 car in their kind of Renault. P2 is Unified Performance Racing with Justin Hess behind the wheel. No changes yet for those drivers. 37 cars, only 2.4 seconds back, but they have dropped outside the window. P3, the 56 car, SimHQ Motorsports 3, Paul Hale driving that car, also first driver in today. And their sister car sits behind them in P4, You're not going to think the camera changed there, but it did. It's the 34 car, SimHQ Motorsports 2, with Nolan Kinslow behind the wheel, sitting 16 seconds behind your class leader there. P5, Can-Am Canucks with Drew Litka in the car, the 121 machine, having a great day out today in 5th place. P6 today, PG13 Racing with Cameron Bidwell behind the wheel. The 26 car also having a fantastic outing here, trying to get more track position, but 6th place right now is what they're looking at. 7th place, and we've had, of course, no pit stops yet from our GT field. All Balls Racing, Jay Daggett there in the 77 machine in 7th. It almost feels like it fits. I wouldn't want to make any passes or lose any position. Stay there, Jay. Julie Redmond in the 57 car for Last Minute Racing. They're 54 seconds back from class leader in P8 right now, doing what they can to move forwards. P number 9, Michael Parker for AutoX Sim Motorsports, didn't qualify today, and they're currently sitting in P9, so they've made quite a few places in this one, the 23 car today. In fact, they're currently up about 8 places. P10, Can-Am Express with Mick Blue behind the wheel on the 85 machine. They are moving themselves as well, but they are down 2 positions in that movement. P11 is going to be Team Brake Fade with Brian Blanchette in the 40. Those guys are currently sitting first car 1 lap down, 26th overall. P12 also 1 lap down after the early race incident where 2 sister cars hit each other. The 44 of Longhorn Racing, Larry Ford, unfortunately in the smoke, plowed into their sister car that spun out after a contact on the track, and they are running down in 12th place. MMTR Motorsports there in the 13th place with the 33 car, Stephen Rivard behind the wheel of that Gulf fuel sponsored Corvette. Gorgeous. NGP Motorsports and Vinny Lima right now behind them, one of the BMWs we have in our field today. BMW is perhaps struggling a little bit tonight. P14 and 1 lap down. P15, Leonard Berg, Triple R Racing, the 71 Ferrari. I've been looking a little bit worse for wear with no hood. It's going to be really, really draggy on a high-speed circuit like Circuit de la Salle. P16, Can-Am Racing with Paul Seymour behind the wheel. That BMW, the 143 car, still fighting, but towards the rear of our 17 car class. Last but not least, Longhorn Racing Lone Star, Phil Elmore, who was hit early on and spun out, then caught by their sister car. The 78 machine running last in class overall, unfortunately, but with significant damage from that impact. Well, that, folks, was your Penguin RC race report here for the first time tonight. We will catch up with where everybody is in the field again later in the race. Of course, we're finishing our prototype, pit stops right now, and we'll be looking to get our GTE stops in the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. Taylor?
Certainly so, and of course we still have great racing action throughout the circuit here today. Of course, we are still keeping an eye. CMS Pro Summit has come down pit road, but we have a battle once again for P8 between AutoX Simworks of Michael Parker and Last Minute Racing's Julie Redmond as they work their way through into the Mulsanne corner. Redmond goes wide. Those are the guys that will allow the AutoX Sim Motorsports team to take over the 8th position as Redmond backs it up and continues on his way. Let's take a look at the replay. He just overshoots it, overbrakes it completely, goes wide, hits the gravel right there, and loops it around. Doesn't make contact with the Armco barrier, thankfully, Rachel, but continues on his way, but will lose a position and a lot of time to that AutoX Sim Motorsports team.
Yeah, they certainly are, of course, and it's about dynamic track position, of course. They didn't qualify, maybe they weren't expecting much here, but it seemed to be that they've really started to move forwards here in the class. They are holding on for the moment, but they are losing a lot of time. They're about 50 seconds back, I believe, from your race leader in class. That would be, of course, Renault Alpine Racing. And, well, last time a German chased a Frenchman, it was the 1940s. Too soon?
No, I would think so. But we do have some information to talk about briefly with the Rebellion Racing as another car goes wide. James Andrew also loops it around as David Santiago says, I will get away from this danger here. As that was some great driving by the Team Cosmos driver of Santiago. as he was able to snake his way through. Let's take a look at the replay right quick. There was one of the LMP or GTE cars that went a little bit wide, looped it around. There you see him going around James Andrew in the CMS Pro Summit or CMHQ Motorsports team. He then loses position. There's one of the Corvettes who loops around and then loops in front of James Andrew and also collects another GTE car. And of course, we see David Santiago ducks to the inside. As you're on board with Santiago, you see Andrew by. There goes the Corvette around. He will make contact with that BMW, and Andrews tries to avoid it. And Santiago says, "Thank you very much. I will go on my way."
Yeah, it really does. And we're starting to see some definite shakeups in there with the cars on mixed tyres. And that's going to be a big impact, I think, especially in the LMP class. We're going to see definite differences in speed there and some opportunity to gain track position here with when you pitch in that cycle. But GTE cars, not really looking at it yet, and that could be a very important difference for these guys, especially as grip is so important to them with so little aero compared to the LMP cars.
Certainly so. That's Stephen Rivard in the MMTR Chevrolet Corvette, car number 33, as that is also Vinny Lima in the NGP Motorsports BMW, and no longer has the front nose to that BMW. You're on board with him, and there it goes. Now, I would have to say MMTR probably could have just held the brake a little bit and wait till the traffic came by instead of coming right back on the track right there. That's just my personal preference on the matter, but we'll see what happens. But some big implications for a couple of drivers here today, especially for James Andrew, who's not really had the best of runs here at Le Mans. Got caught up in that early lap 1, turn 1 incident here, as well as through Mulsanne corner a couple of times now. So a tough break for him.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, it seems the further back you are in the pack, the trickier things can get, which is why putting the car on pole is always so important. Now, let's not forget that the pole award contingency winners today are Revo, Satellite Racing in LMP2, and Unified Performance Racing in GTE, considering they're basically threefer in this award in the series, because they both are on pole every time. Now, unfortunately, right now, it looks like Unified Performance Racing are maybe not going to be the winner unless they pull something out of the back in this race, but they've still got the pole award to enjoy.
Trying to pull the hat trick here for the first 3 events of the CMS iRacing Team Endurance Series, as you're on board with WWZ Red Robert Cottle in his number 79 LMP2, trying to see if he can get around Wayne Hutchinson in the Hard Promise Racing P2 as they go underneath the Dunlop Bridge, working their way through towards Tetraroos before heading down Mulsanne once again. And Rachel, I know we're only racing the afternoon here, but racing at this track at night is probably one of the most spiritual and most awe-inspiring moments that you can have. It's just you, the headlights ablaze, and when you're alone on the track at that time, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, certainly is, of course, and it is gorgeous at night. This place is truly breathtaking. And just seeing the cars coming down the Mulsanne with those headlights, it's, oof, there you go.
As you see, Cottle will go to the inside of Hutchinson, but we'll see Hutchinson take the outside lane, but Cottle will take over the position as Hutchinson will take over that position as they come out of the first Mulsanne chicane. Or actually, no, it might be the second Mulsanne chicane. Nope, first Mulsanne chicane, sorry about that. As they work their way on through, heading towards the second Mulsanne. As you see the speed starting to increase to work their way over, as we keep an eye on this battle here for the 12th position.
Yeah, they really are trying to go for it right now, of course, and we're seeing some great battles starting to develop after this cycle, and these guys are really trying to push to make something happen with this. It's going to be interesting to see where they end up popping out from this, but the Jakester car up ahead of them there is looking pretty clean.
It's certainly very clean between the two P2 drivers right now. No changes up towards the front of the field in the P2 class. It is still Revo Satellite Racing's David Williams having a 12.6 second lead over Jason Lundy in the Pneumatic Motorsports Blue. And then, of course, the GTE lead, Jack Chrissy, still your race leader with the Renault Alpine Racing Corvette by about 2.8 seconds over the Unified Performance Racing Ferrari of Justin Hess. So we'll keep you updated if there is any changes or battling for the positions throughout the field here today. P2 field, this is pretty much your best battle between Robert Cottle, Wayne Hutchinson, but there's a battle for 5th position about to brew And this is between the PG-13 Racing of Cameron Bidwell and Drew Ledecky in the Can-Am Canucks BMW as they work their way down Mulsanne, or actually the Corvette, as they work their way down the Mulsanne Straight, and a little bit of lap traffic in between them. This will allow Cameron Bidwell to get a good run to the inside of Drew Ledecky, side by side for the battle for position as they head into the second Mulsanne. Ledecky, though, will outbreak Cameron Bidwell to hold on to that 5th position right now as they work their way out of the second Mulsanne chicane.
Yeah, exactly, and the Mulsanne chicanes being one of the trickiest parts on that section of road because you're coming in with such high speed. In fact, probably the trickiest corners overall, I think, just for the speed you carry into them, obviously, after the Dunlop elevation. But they're looking pretty close right now as they dive down towards Indy, and it's... or Mulsanne, sorry, Mulsanne corner. Really, really tight positioning here, but it's getting a little bit closer. Oh, we have a car around, actually. Can-Am Racing has dumped it in the S's.
Can-Am Racing, that's currently driven by Paul Seymour.
Contact with the LMP2 car, the 29 Wildfire Racing just dives up the inside as they're going into the corner and dumps them.
Well, looking briefly, I think he might have touched the grass a little bit before. If you watch the replay a little bit, Rachel, he'll go a little bit wide, hit the grass, as you see the replay right here. Let's focus on Paul Seymour right quick in the car in front of him as they work their way towards the Porsche curves. He'll come through here, hit his mark there, but go a little bit wide into the grass and then loops it around and then makes contact. So the first major incident between the two classes possibly here today, as a GTE car will make a mistake, causing an LMP2 car to be pretty much the innocent bystander in this situation. And he's still having trouble as he just spun out again here momentarily. He's finally now got it down pit road for Paul Seymour as our race leader, Jack Chrissy and Justin Hess. So good thing we turned over to that camera. Let's talk about the pit stops for our race leaders, Rachel.
Yeah, absolutely. They're just heading onto pit road now, and we've got them on the pit road here. Renault Alpine Racing, Unified Sim Racing are in as well. Sim HQ's cars are both coming in here. Yep, we've got both of those guys coming down pit road. As looking as well, we've got PG-13 hitting pit road 2. It's suddenly getting very busy. Can-Am Canucks are coming in. It's crazy. There's about 8 cars currently sitting down there. We've got driver swaps as well kicking in.
Certainly too. Justin Hess, Jack Chrissy still staying in their cars as Jack Chrissy will maintain the race lead in the Renault Alpine Racing Corvette. Justin Hess will follow in hot pursuit as Connor Denny and Brian Van Bascume will now take over their cars in the SimHQ Motorsports team as Ross Booth gets into the PG-13 Racing Corvette, David Slee in the Can-Am Canucks, and Jay Dargett where we get into the All Balls Racing. So a couple of others as Paul Hamilton actually now swaps over into the car. So a little bit of miscommunication on the drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what we can get from these guys, but it's time to really get this thing moving for these cars as some very long pit stops and repair jobs happening from the GTE field.
Yeah, currently right now, a couple of drivers have been having a pit stop of over a minute and a half right now. One of those drivers actually being the SimHQ Motorsports 2, while the average pit stop right now usually is about a minute and 5. If they're any longer when it comes to when we say a minute and 5, that might seem so, but you're including a driver change in the midst of that as well as getting a full tank of fuel. So, of course, Jack Chrissy and Justin Hess did not do a driver change, so we're going to have to add an extra 30 seconds just about for those drivers to get the driver changes needed to continue on their way. And as we see our GTE race leader, Jack Chrissy, back out in front of the field, and he's actually able to extend his gap to about 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, he is, and that's a big advantage for him, of course. Really clean pit stop from those guys, and it's definitely given them something here that they could really use. Hess is going to have to work this one, or hope that his teammate can maybe pull a different pace out here, because Renault Alpine have been dominant since they passed.
Do you think it has anything to do with the French colors on that Corvette?
I think Yeah, I think it's home turf advantage.
The only problem is it's on an American car. That's the only issue still I have with it. This has probably been the trigger of the entire season for me and Rachel with this car. As you ride on board with Jack Chrissy in the Renault Alpine Racing Corvette, as he has just been passed by a couple of League Lap P2 cars right now as they continue on their way, heading over as we have a couple of cars going 3 wide down Mulsanne, something you see quite often when LMP2s, LMP1s, and GT cars get together as they work their way through the first Mulsanne chicane. That was Paul Hamilton along with Mark Johnson and I believe Robert Cottle, who decided to take them 3 wide before they head to the first Mulsanne chicane.
Yeah, doing what he can there to try and make some space with this, but 3 wide's a little sketchy at times coming into chicanes because everyone's looking to get the right track position to make that move, and it could really put you on edge trying to go for something like that, as it can really open things up. Speaking of opening things up, Revo Satellite Racing, 11.5 seconds gap on Pneumatic Motorsports Blue. David O. Williams in the Revo car, Jason Lundy in the Pneumatic Blue. That gap's significant, but this is what we've seen from them every race so far.
Just pure domination that Revo Satellite Racing has had since the season opener at Daytona, looking to take the hat track, and it's now up to 14 seconds even between him and Jason Lundy in the Pneumatic Motorsports Blue. You see on screen as he works his way underneath the Dunlop Bridge and heads his way towards Tetra Rouge.
Yeah, doing what he can with that one. Tetra Rouge, a very tricky corner, so of course, when you're heading into that, to get the maximum speed you can out of it. So we're starting to see a bigger variety now of GTE cars being passed by LMP2 cars, so we're going to see some contentious moments here. We already had a couple where guys are just wrong place, wrong time and meeting there. It could really start to cause some kerfuffles on the racetrack. It's the one thing we've always noticed is the LMP2 cars seem to think they have a right to be ahead of them. You've got to race around your competition, not through it.
Certainly so, and that's one of the rules that at least a lot of major leagues like to try and just let these GTE cars and LMP2 know. LMP2 cars have to find a way around the GTE cars. The GTE cars can, as long as they race their line, those LMP2 cars can find the right opportunity and make a pass on their competitors quickly and safely if they do it at the right area. Usually though, when some LMP2 drivers I've seen in other series and other official events is kind of be a little bit too over aggressive, since they feel like they have the faster car, the higher horsepower, they think they can easily just whiz on by, but sometimes that's not the case. You gotta show that balance of patience, especially when it comes to endurance and multi-class racing.
Yeah, you really do, and the multi-class component is a core component of the style of racing that these guys have to know how to work around that traffic, because if you're good with traffic, you can win races in your class, whether you're being passed or passing. You've got to manage traffic is a critical component to being a quick endurance driver, and you can't do that, and you tend to go through people rather than round them. And when you actually catch up to the cars, it's going to mean you're a slower driver, so they don't win races.
They certainly do not, as we now watch the battle once again between Wayne Hutchinson as he is trying to hold off Brian Sohn behind him, the Penguin RC Complex Simworks LMP2 car, as they now come out of Tetra Rouge to head towards Mulsanne. And that's where we'll start to see the speeds to increase, the action to pick up a little bit between these two drivers. We now see as we'll see the speeds to increase even more. Let's see what the speed is for Brian Sohn as before he heads into the first chicane here at Mulsanne. He's currently just now hit 200 miles an hour, as now he's hitting 201, 2, and drops it down at about 203 miles an hour and completes the pass on Wayne Hutchinson.
Yeah, big move there, and the high speeds here are insane at Le Mans. This is the sort of territory we get up to here. We don't see this at very many tracks where the cars will reach these sort of velocities. It's absolutely breathtaking. You wonder how fast they go without things like the chicanes on the Mulsanne.
Well, it looks like we have our first Ask the Booth question for both Taylor and Rachel. Our favorite Le Mans moments and memories. Well, Rachel, how about you start us off? Uh-oh.
Wow. Le Mans favorite moments. It's kind of tough actually, and oh god. I think it was one of the last years when. Sorry, I'm just having a bit of a brain moment here, but it was one of the years. I think it was maybe 3-4 years ago now, coming to the last laps of Le Mans in the GTE class, and I'm pretty sure it was
Was it Corvette versus Aston Martin?
yes, it was Jordan Taylor in the Corvette, and I think he had a tire start to go down on one of the final laps.
I remember that
Still
one.
dragged that thing home. That was a phenomenal run from him. I believe he lost the lead, but
He did.
he still brought that thing home in second place with a tire down. Like, that
I
was
believe
incredible.
I believe it was Darren Turner who beat him to the
Yes, it
line.
was. Darren Taylor in the Aston Martin, but it was a phenomenal run. I think it was the Ford actually, wasn't it, that beat them that time?
Nope, it was the Aston Martin
Aston
actually
Martin,
that time.
yeah. But
Yes.
it was. Oh god, that drive with 3.
It was phenomenal.
It was insane. But the Taylor brothers have always been insanely good drivers. But Jordan Taylor's fantastic, especially on social media. He's hilarious.
Oh yes. Have to one day have him and Rodney Sandstorm do a endurance battle. Would you imagine the insanity that would be if those two personas of Jordan Taylor were able to work together and have a race? But for me, my favorite Le Mans moment in recent years would probably have to be. That's a tough one. Probably when we had 3 manufacturers battling for overall supremacy. I mean, I won't throw in the Nissan because the Nissan was absolutely terrible back in 2015, but that year when you had Audi, Toyota, and Porsche battling for the overall battles, I mean, it's something phenomenal to see when manufacturers get involved so heavily and able to put on a good show. I mean, we had the Toyotas leading at some points, the Audis and the Porsches, to where, of course, Porsche would take home victory overall and stake their claim once again as being the most dominant manufacturer at Circuit de la Sarthe, Rachel. But just the hard work and preparation of that battle that we saw in the 2015 race was phenomenal. Just to see 3 heavyweight manufacturers battling lap in, lap out, minute after minute, hour after hour. And of course, it just was who had the better car, hands down.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does become one of those situations, and you've got to just race what you've got, obviously, but at the same time, the driver talent you tend to see in endurance racing in those really hard moments is a big factor. And it shows the great from the simply good.
Of course, now we have a lot of different manufacturers getting involved once again to make a return to Circuit de la Sarthe. Of course, we know Toyota is coming back with their new LMH, as well as Peugeot coming back in 2023. And then, of course, the Glickenhaus that will be making their debut here in the 2021 season. Very phenomenal. And I got to say, I saw the Glickenhaus a couple of days ago before their incident that they had during testing. Phenomenal race car.
Yeah, it looks interesting. Peugeot, of course, another French manufacturer. Excited to see what they'll do with things, of course, but they haven't been famous for their consistency of their road cars, so we'll see.
Okay, this is a good one right here. So Kurt Poulter just asked us. Justin Hess is asking us, why is the Corvette so fast? The best thing I can think of why the Corvette's so fast.
Oh,
Yeah, well, I know it's the one they're chasing. Yes, the one they're chasing in particular. Either because it's a Corvette.
Yeah, because
And it's got the French tricolor on there, of course.
Okay, yeah, the French tricolor is helping it go faster at Le Mans in particular. That is why this particular Corvette, this Corvette with an identity crisis that thinks it's a Renault, is going so much faster. Is because I think I am, therefore I am. It believes it is a Renault running at Circuit de la Sarthe in France, and it is doing what it can to run away from the Italian behind it because. Well, during the Second World War, of course, the Italians, at least for the first half, did not like the French. So, of course, they had a little bit of a conflict there. So the Frenchman sees an Italian and he's like, Mon Dieu, I must escape. And he zooms away into the distance. And now I've offended everybody, so I think my job here is done.
Well done, Rachel. Well done. Well, I hope we'll be. Well, I hope we'll be back for Monza in Italy, of course.
Oh, I can't wait for that. That's going to be amazing. But no, I hope Tess is listening to this and he giggles and crashes. No, I hope he doesn't crash. That would be bad.
And of course, our producer is
terrible French. Our producer who went straight for the classic cheese and wine parody
and baguettes.
Yeah, a bit like when an American tries to do an impression of British people and like, oh, tea and crumpets, I love. Oh, I'm Dick Van Dyke. I'm going to come and sweep your chimney. And they don't sound anything like a Cockney. And they pick up those Okay, we have a rebuttal. Okay.
Oh, okay, color. Okay, got it. We will paint our car
next round. Well, you go to
Please do.
So if you paint your car Ferrari red for the next round, you will most likely win. Because Miss Monza, you will get home court advantage as Ferrari. It's basically Ferrari home turf. So paint it red, and you will win. That is Ferrari red only. Ferrari red only. It can't be black. It can't be yellow.
Oh, of course.
Although Ferrari black and yellow do exist in the specific colours. Ferrari red is a particular shade of red, which is, I believe, Scuderia red, I believe it's called. And that shade is going to get all the Italians to jump out and push your car faster.
Of course. I do got to say Kurt Poulter has to go with a little bit of a car identity crisis because he is also part of the BMW Car Club of America. So I'm still having wondering, why is he driving a Ferrari? I'm still wondering about that.
We asked him this already back
in Daytona,
and he said it's because his teammate's good with the Ferrari. So he's like, well,
he has to break his band honor. Yes,
ironically, when in Rome, do as Romans do. In this case, when in Rome, drive a Ferrari.
Of course, and of course we'll hopefully have to see him with the Scuderia red as we see as...
do it. I will be disappointed.
You have to do
that grey car. It's not Ferrari Scuderia red for the next round.
If it's not it.
Yeah, if they go to Monza with a kind of greyish car,
they will not win.
Be disappointed. They will not win. No, they will not win with a grey car at Monza. Just can we get the camera to focus on their car right now? I'm just asking my director here, can we get the car to focus on Unified Performance Racing? The 37 machine, currently piloted by Justin Hess, and his teammates watching this, so I want to basically tell him something here. So let's just look at the car, if we can get that on the camera, and I'm looking at the wrong feed. There we go. I was looking at the actual broadcast feed, not the actual production feed.
The only red on there is the number.
What's wrong with this car? Yes, the only bit of red you have on a Ferrari is the number board. Okay, so that grey looks like a production model, looks like something in the factory is being tested. This has not got any Italiano to it. It is not a Ferrari, okay? Yeah, it looks like you painted that primer only. You left out the paint. The paint is what makes it go faster, you know? You need the Ferrari red. How dare you? You offend Enzo Ferrari. Anyway, moving on.
we have to thank somebody right quick, Rachel.
Yeah, we do. Go for it. Oh, we're doing Grid Finder now, I think.
Yes, we are
doing Grid Finder. Let me go silly to serious. And you know what? I'm going to keep the French accent I had a minute ago for this one. So, Grid Finder is your go-to resource for sim racing leagues. Grid Finder is currently home to over 500 leagues across all gaming platforms and covering 10 different racing sims. Need a commentator or broadcaster for your race? Search Grid Finder. Need a livery designer for your next car? Grid Finder. And Grid Finder has teamed up with the sim racing community to create a sim racing calendar in support of men's mental health charity Calm. That is the campaign against living miserably. 100% of the profits will go to Calm. Visit grid-finder.com to purchase a calendar and keep track of all your races and support a great charity. Grid Finder, the home of online sim racing leagues.
Spot on, I would say. Spot on, Rachel.
I said I'd do it at some point. It's going to happen.
Well, yes, you would. And as we want to make sure we keep an eye on the battles throughout the racetrack here, really, though, everybody separated themselves quite handsomely by over anywhere between a second plus over the rest of their field right now. So, as we are about to approach the 1 hour mark, I believe, is it safe that we go through the field right now, Rachel, or do we have to wait a little?
We would wait a little bit longer because we've already done one of our Penguin RC race reports. We need to wait at least a little bit longer for the second one.
I know. That's what I was thinking. Like, I'm pretty sure we've already done that recently. As actually David Williams is coming down pit road.
It does, yes, guys.
It does.
Yeah, there you go.
Ray Ferrari and Guy Fieri. Yeah. Yeah, but still, red Ferrari. You can't. You got to go that way.
Be red. He's the color of champions. I'm gonna get so many complaints for this broadcast, and I don't even care.
Oh my goodness.
My director told me before this to be spicy today that I have my serious races where I have to put my, professional hat on, and I've been doing those for a while now, and he says, this one I could be more fun, we could be more Radio Le Mans. And I asked him ahead of time, were the various jokes I had planned okay, and were the silly accents okay? And he said it was fine. So guess what? It's happening, whether you want it to or not.
Very spicy as we watch the battle right here for P8 between Christian Rava and the Jakester Racing, who still doesn't have a Jake in the car, as they work their way. Actually, that's Everett Paddock, who just got around him in the TNT Racing Carbon. And I'm trying to see, actually, on this paint scheme, if we're talking paint schemes from here recently, if there's any carbon fiber on it. Yes, it is. There's a little bit of carbon fiber type style paint on the nose of that P2 car. So I was about to say, there better be some carbon fiber designs on that car. Otherwise, we'd have a problem.
Yeah, it would be very misleading. Trying to see what we can do with this one. Well, there's a bit more carbon than that. There's the front quarters, I think. We're talking TNT carbon, right?
Yes, we are talking.
There's quite a lot of carbon on that one, I'd say.
I do see.
Entire front wheel arches and down the sides and on the top of the fin and the wing and you're blind. There's lots of carbon on this one. There's carbon. All that black is carbon, okay?
Well, I see all the black is carbon.
They've got the chromy bit, whatever. They've got the red, they've got the yellow, and they've got the carbony bit.
Well, I'm glad they just have the carbony bits as well, because they would have been very disappointing if they didn't have the carbony bits.
It's TNT carbon, It makes total sense. That car has the carbon fiber on it, therefore it's carbon.
Well, speaking of, let me see, is they're actually one of the cleanest drivers? No, they are not, actually. But we do have a couple of clean awards to give out so far, possibly, as we approach the halfway point. Currently, right now, is about 6 cars on the field who have not had a single incident. That includes the Pneumatic Motorsports Blue of Jason Lundy, Imperial Motorsports Shake of Lee Peterson, Justin Hess in the United Performance Racing Ferrari, and then Connor Denny in the SimHQ Motorsports 3, Jakester Racing, Christian Rava, and Jack Chrissy in the Renault Alpine Chevrolet Corvette.
Yeah, some great drives from those guys. It's really hard to run an endurance race and not get at least an off track somewhere. It's really hard because
it certainly is.
Try running around Spa and not getting a single off track. I dare you. It's actually kind of hard. Yeah, so top 3 in GTE and not quite the top 2 in LMP2, but second and third.
Well, actually, yes, the top 2 because Pneumatic and Revo actually is in third right now.
What? No.
They came up. No, they're in second right now. They currently just came down pit road a few moments ago, Rachel.
Oh, but they're overall in first, I'm pretty sure. Because
in a few moments
out, it will be back into first again, so. I'm confused now. My director's telling me one thing, iRacing's telling me another one, and the broadcast's saying something else. So, my mind equals blown right now as I'm trying to basically wrap my head around this one. But Revo technically should be filtering out into first, according to the actual timing and scoring.
Yes, in a few moments, once we see Jason Lundy and Chris Pies come down pit road, they will overall take the overall lead. So
I think they're changing their strategy slightly here to go a lap different here to see if it makes a difference overall to how big the gap is between themselves and Revo. Because, of course, we have 15 seconds. Can they go a little bit longer on this set and take advantage, run a lap less on the next cycle, take a slightly shorter pit stop in a few laps' time? Maybe that will give them some advantage, but a very wide run through Avian there, leading to maybe a little bit loss of time, actually, for Revo.
Could be. We'll have to keep a track on and see how that will work out for them. Meanwhile, here is your race lead, or actually now, once again, here is Paul Darling, who is now in the car. We just saw David Williams, who had a predominant run in his stints, and we now see Chris Pies take over in the Imperial Motorsports Shake. Of course, for those of you who are fans of the PCA Sim Racing Series, took home his first win of the season at Road America. Mr. Chip, his spotter, and crew chief take him home to a great win there. Let's see if they can have a podium finish as we watch the battle for 9th position in LMP2. This is between Brian Sohn and Gabriel Albano. The two drivers battling their way as they head to the second Mulsanne chicane. Wayne Hutchinson in the Hard Promise Racing P2 watches on in the popcorn position, ready to strike if any one of those two makes a mistake as they come out of the second Mulsanne chicane to make the run to Mulsanne. Oh, Doug Ritter is actually in the catbird seat right now in the DDM Racing P2 car in 11th position. As Ritter watches on, trying to see if he can find a way to catch up to Gabriel Albano, hits the brakes as they enter into Mulsanne right on the back bumper. Doesn't make any contact, continues on his way.
Yeah, gets it done as it needs to be, of course, and making sure he's got a lot of time and space here with this one, as I think we're seeing some people still staying out here. Pneumatic and Imperial stayed out another lap additionally on top of Revo in this position here, but looking at on track is a big dive here between these guys. There's P11 and Gabriel Albano there in the Jakester Racing. I'm still disappointed there's no Jakes involved in this race, as unfortunately
they go off.
Just Curse strikes and they go wide in Indianapolis. Unfortunate there, boys. Sorry.
Could it be because they don't have a Jake in their car?
Yeah, well, they needed a Jake brake there, didn't they?
They did.
They had no Jake brake and they went off the track.
They certainly did, but I'm looking at timing. The Jake did broke in that matter as we keep an eye. One thing, Rachel, I want to talk about briefly is I'm looking at some of the pits times that just recently happened. Jason Lundy, Christopher Pies, they actually did come down pit road at the same time as Paul Darling in the Revo Satellite Racing team, because they are all on the same stint of tires as Paul Darling. And looking at the pit times, 30-second, the first and second had about a 30-second pit stops compared to Revo Satellite Racing's 1 minute 5 pit stops. So it's a little bit of strategy play in, Paul.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a investigation to do here. We'll get back to you with information as soon as we work out what happened with that one, but at the moment just keeping eyes on the LMP1 field, or 2 field I should keep thinking LMP1. We're here at Circuit de la Sarthe, so you know that's going to happen, but it's definitely beginning to become interesting. We're seeing some pit cycles changing in this one, and that's definitely opening things up to me. Keep my eyes here though on DDM and Penguin, who are on top of each other right now in 9th and 10th in class, and DDM trying their hardest here to catch up, and Douglas Ritter there doing what he can here to get on top of the Penguin car and try and find a way around.
Hitting his marks as they work their way over to Tetra Rouge, as they work their way through, hitting his marks not to go too wide off circuit, hits the curve a little bit to continue on his way, and now the speeds begin to climb as they work their way down the Mulsanne straight, heading to the first of the 2 Mulsanne chicanes. Currently hitting speeds of 190 and climbing as he hits 200 now, as he now continues to go, as he will hit 205, 206 before hitting the brakes.
And it's huge speeds. That is probably one of the fastest runs we've seen through that section, actually.
Yes, it is indeed, as we keep an eye, of course. Nothing like when it was back before they put the Mulsanne chicanes, of course, hitting speeds of 250 miles an hour. As we see, talking about the draft, Rachel, with the P2s and GTEs, a big benefactor for those drivers who are following behind in the slipstream, because you could easily make a pass and the car that you're battling with is almost at a standstill because you're carrying so much speed by utilizing the slipstream.
Yeah, you really are, and the slipstream is a big advantage, and even we'll see some cars actually hit their rev limiter when they're actually in that stroke again, sorry, the second of the night. As they get up to that speed, they're going to really get over speeded actually as they get there. We've got a change for P7 and 8 in your LMP2 field. CMS Pro Summit being passed by Cosmos, and we'll get the replay for you here on screen. And Team Cosmos' Drake Bergeron coming up behind him here, and big dive up the inside. I gotta say, I really like that Team Cosmos paint scheme on that car. It is simple, but boy,
Very
is it
clean.
elegant. It is super clean, and sometimes super clean is a really good idea. It's just sharp.
Very sharp indeed, as we see on board with Jordan Johnson, who's now having to try to fight his way back to the back bumper of Drake Burgone as they work their way towards the Ford chicanes.
Yeah, doing what he can to try and make his way back through here, but I just think he's going to really struggle. We've seen higher speed there, but we're going a big battle for P2, and we're seeing a change here as Revo getting through there on pneumatic. No, Imperial Shake, sorry. So yeah, we're seeing Revo actually taking a position here. I don't think Imperial have just pitted. Let me just check.
Yeah, they pitted on the same lap.
Just pitted, so this is actually a pass 4 position here. P7 at it again.
Yep, P7 is back at it again. This time it is going to be Jordan Johnson on the attack to get around Drake Burgone as he goes a little wide. Will he hold on? Big save for Jordan Johnson as he goes a little bit wide through Tetra Rouge and continues on his way. But what a save. That would have been almost instant KO for Jordan Johnson and the CMS Pro Summit team. Let's watch the replay of this. Hits the grass as he comes through the final set of corners right here. Hits the grass and just almost hits the Armco barrier. As we watch on board, he's just holding on, turning left, right, left again to hold on to the race car as he goes off again into the Mulsanne number 1. As he will have to
do time.
That is a big slowdown penalty.
Yeah, massive penalty on a massive straight, so he's gone. That fight is over.
As we keep an eye on that as a big frustration for the CMS Pro Summit team and Jordan Johnson after that mistake. He just overshoots it, misses the braking point, has to continue through here. Snake his way past the tire barriers. You're on board with him. And it looks like that we saw Drake break a little bit earlier. That might have caught Jordan off guard. That's why he pretty much had him overshoot the corner and miss it completely.
Yeah, sometimes you just get so focused on a fight, you can miss something like that, and it can lead to a big whoopsie, as we saw there. 2 big whoopsies, in fact, and I think he was just frazzled from the first one and made a second mistake.
Certainly so, as we keep an eye on, as you're on board with Brian Zableski in the Can-Am Express BMW. Of course, the BMWs have had major success here at Circuit de la Sarthe, whether it be in GTEs or, of course, back in the LMP 900 days. Of course, with their V12 LMR that they took home victory back in 1999. As we watch them work their way towards the Ford chicanes. And they have another BMW that they're battling with right in front of them, as you're now on board with PG-13 Racing, Ross Booth.
Yeah, doing what he can with this one to make something happen, as it's been a good day so far for PG-13. They're working some spots, of course. They're still technically where they started, but they lost some ground and they're gaining some back now. And yeah, they've actually had a really strong run so far. In fact, they're catching up towards MHQ, and we could see some moves.
We certainly could see some moves right now, as the 2 Corvettes will do battle here as they approach over to Indianapolis and then make the short shoot run to Arnage as probably the slowest corner on the entire circuit, as they break all the way down till about 40 miles an hour to get back up onto the power to continue on their way to head towards the Porsche curves.
Yeah, trying to do what they can here, but it's looking like PG-13 just got a little bit more steam under the hood there. I think with this tire, they're just running a little stronger.
They certainly are, actually. Last time around, actually, as we keep an eye, as I look at timing and scoring, PG-13 Racing was about a second faster than the SimHQ Motorsports 2 Corvette. As you see them snake their way through, they're currently right now, I would say, about a minute off of their class leader. So they have quite a bit of work to do right now. But as we keep an eye on the rest of the field, that is our closest battle in GTE, as we're on board with Jason Lundy in second. He currently has about a 6.3 second advantage over the satellite racing team of Paul Darling, who was 4 seconds faster last time around and just ran his... That was close indeed as he tried to get around one of the GTE cars out of Indianapolis. Will snake his way around on the outside before they get to Arnage, but a big implication right there for Lundy, and a lot of lost time now. It's now 1.8, 1.4, and closing between the two drivers. Take a look at the replay.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, take a look at the replay. A big center right there as you're on board with Paul Hamilton. A big checkup for Lundy, which causes him to lose a massive amount of time as we'll keep an eye on the battle for the overall and LMP2 lead.
Yeah, it's definitely looking a little spicy right now. Of course, we're seeing the catch-up here with Revo towards Pneumatic Motorsports Blue, and Paul Darling is coming for it. Yeah, it's 4 seconds last lap. That is huge. Now, I believe, looking at this, that we've not had a pit stop yet from Motorsports Blue. Would that be Pneumatic Blue? Would that be correct?
No, they pitted on the same time. So you're tough.
They pitted at the same time and they've lost 4 seconds. What is Paul Darling on? What
speed
is he? I mean, yeah, I was going to say. Like, wow. I mean, they're both Delaros, so I can't make some sort of nationality joke here, but Paul Darling is absolutely going for it.
He certainly is. If they
hit on him right now, is honestly, if I was him, I'd wait to Tetra Rouge, but damn, son, he's going for it. He doesn't want to wait.
He does not want to wait. He wants to pass him the last lap around as they come through Tetra Rouge. Here they come down Mulsanne, and let's watch the speed differential between the two drivers. Paul Darling in the slipstream as they work their way down Mulsanne. He's gaining speed, hitting 189, 190, hitting speeds of 200 miles an hour. Now he'll duck to the inside of Jason Lundy, 203 now. Here they continue on their way. He will slingshot past his competitor, 204, as he hits the braking zone. New race leader once again back up front. Paul Darling in the Rebel Satellite gets a little bit loose, gains control of his car, continue on his way as Lundy watches on, and all he can say is just say, see you later.
Yeah, that was not really a contest. He'd want to fight. He just dumped him. That was insane. I've never seen the guy just close up on someone that quickly when on the same tire strategy. That was ridiculous.
Jason Lundy's going to try and send it in into the Mulsanne number 2, this time to retake the race lead. He will hold on to it as they come out of Mulsanne 2. And as they make the run to Mulsanne corner, Paul Darling now back on the back bumper of that P2 car in front of them for the race lead. Here they go down the straight here before they head to Mulsanne corner. Side-by-side battle for the race lead in LMP2. This is your overall race lead battle as well. Here they go. Paul Darling will hold on by about a half a car length. Lundy's tried to send it in a little later, but as they make the braking point into Mulsanne, Paul Darling will maintain the race lead.
Yeah, that was close for a moment, but Paul Darling he's got too much under the hood right now. That was fast. An insane lap between him and David Williams. I think Paul Darling might be the speed they need right now, because he's punched that thing back up to front and it's going to be off like a rocket.
I wonder the reason why drivers such as Jason Lundy, Christopher Pies, Robert Tarbox, and all of them, since they pitted, they took fuel only, because their pit stops were very, very short compared to a driver such as Paul Darling's pit stop. Granted, Paul Darling had a driver change now. It was David Williams in there originally. But looking at those times, I wonder if they did not take tires, Jason Lundy, Christopher Pies, Robert Tarbox, when they came down pit road. And with a driver change, you automatically know that you most likely will take tires in the middle of this process. So something to think about. Could it be the fact that Darling just has fresher tires as well as just being so talented here in the CMS iRacing Team Endurance Series?
I think it could be. The fresher tires will make a big difference if you just do the fuel stops. Yeah, that can get you some position jump, but you're using a lot of tires around here, and I think they just realized that.
Certainly so, as we are now under 1 hour left to go. You're on board with Marcus Johnson right now. That's the battle for P8 between Last Minute Racing's BMW versus the Can-Am Canucks Chevrolet, as we now see our overall race leader Paul Darling watching on. He'll duck to the inside of both the both the GTE car, and then we see Johnson try to follow suit as they make the approach through the Dunlop curves, as we see David Slee get a little bit wide, able to hold on to his race car as they go underneath the Dunlop Bridge and work their way towards Tetra Rouge.
Absolutely going for it, as it is a critical time of the race. We're starting to see that fade almost in the drivers, where the driver swaps just come in. So we've got a lot of new drivers who aren't really used to the track conditions here, because we've had a lot of evolution over the last while of the race, and they're trying to basically suddenly jump in the car and race on a track that isn't as fresh as when they were practicing. So now they're finding a much different circuit, along with different positioning to where they were. So it's all about how the car wants to behave, and we're seeing, especially with those guys who did just the fuel stops, that this is perhaps not the way to go, as when you get a new driver in, it's going to be a radically different car. As we look at the battle for P2, I'm looking at right now, I think.
It's a battle for P10 in the GTE class, as one of the cars, that's the All Balls Racing of Jay Daggett, who decides to come down pit road. But this is between the Can-Am Express of Brian Sobolewski and Team Brake Fade of James Foster. Those two battling for the 9th position.
Absolutely are, of course, and the battle's still well and truly in effect there, of course, as they just try to go for what they can here, try to make some spots in the middle of this pit cycle. And it's going to be a tricky move, though, because Brake Fade are really kind of coming on here. They've had a good couple of laps last time by, 354.146, Can-Am Express a 55.03, so that is almost a full second of difference in speed, so we should see him go this lap by.
Certainly so, as we keep an eye on our GTE race leader of Jack Chrissy, who should be coming down pit road here within the next, probably in the next few minutes or so. He will be one of probably the first drivers, as far as, because you don't have to do a driver change as well. So later on we'll have to keep an eye. And speaking of drivers who might have to do some driver changes, these drivers here, James Foster and Team Brian Sobolewski, Team Brake Fade and Can-Am Express, are once again back at it again, as we see James Foster take the lead or take the position away from Sobolewski as they work their way down Mulsanne, heading to Mulsanne chicane number 2, as we see the two BMWs do battle once again. That's a question to think about. You know, we always see the BMWs to consider the big boys of GTE racing, but what happens when you put the two titans together in a battle here at the Circuit de la Sarthe?
Oh, absolutely. And, well, you have a battle of titanic proportions is what you get from these sort of things. As, of course, that was a completely expected pass there we saw, but I'm still shocked that we're seeing such a weak performance from Unified Performance here. Maybe it is the French influence that's just letting Renault Alpine Racing run away. Maybe you think when the Parisians, or the French I should say more specifically, realise that it's not a Renault, it might get slower suddenly.
We'll have to wait and see as that continues on here today. I kind of want to know what the chat is like right now, with the people wondering the reason why a Chevrolet Corvette with the French tricolor as well as the Renault badge on the hood of that Corvette is still leading here at Circuit de la Sarthe, as we keep an eye on this battle for P8. Or actually, this is it's battle for P7 actually. P8 is currently, you're on board with Jordan Johnson, Jake Burgone battling once again as they head the run towards Indianapolis. Keeping an eye on those drivers as they work their way through the first corner. Now into Indianapolis as they climb their way through the banking and now dive it head towards Arnage at 127 and then all the way down to about 50 miles an hour here. Major changes in speed. So from one end of the racetrack, you're hitting speeds of 206, and then on the other, 50 miles an hour. A major difference of speed, and just shows the ingenuity of these race cars.
Yeah, it really does. Just the fact they can brake from those high speeds down to cornering speeds is insanely good. incredibly active race we're seeing with this one, and just how nutty this whole business is getting. We've seen some incredibly exciting racing, we've seen some hectic racing, and thankfully things have calmed down from the chaos we had in the first couple of laps where everyone was donking everybody off the track like it was bumper cars. But it wouldn't be the start of a race if that didn't happen, would it?
It would not be. I mean, you got to have that kind of situation sometimes in the beginning of the race right here, as we keep an eye on Brett Stevens in the Longhorn Racing Ferrari, as he is going to see if he can find a way around the All Balls Racing Corvette of Paul Hamilton. That's something you don't see. I mean, you see more red on a Chevrolet than you do on a Ferrari. That's a problem.
That is a huge problem, especially as the Corvette should be yellow. Come on! What are you doing? Yellow Corvette, red Ferrari. Renault in garage broken.
Well, I mean, unless you're a fan of Prince and know the song Little Red Corvette, which is understandable, but still a problem.
If it's a Prince-themed car, it should be purple, obviously.
Well, of course. But, of course, we don't have rain here on the iRacing service yet.
No.
So it would not work.
Promising rain for about 7 years.
They have been.
Which is the best weather forecast I've ever seen. Ever.
Speaking of the weather here at the track, currently right now the track is at 80 degrees, partly cloudy. 88 is the track temperature. Winds coming out of the west, 8 miles an hour. Currently time of day as well is, I would say, on actually today's date. So a nice spring day in the countryside of France, I would say, as they work their way through, keeping an eye on the battle for the 7th position between Team Cosmos and CMS Pro Summit Team. They make the run out of the first Mulsanne chicane and head the run to the second one. Burgone trying to swerve a little bit to make sure that they continue on their way. But here comes Jordan Johnson with a head of steam, hitting speeds of 200 miles an hour, backing down just a little bit so that way he can make it into the second Mulsanne chicane, but he is right there to capitalize, gets a little bit wide. Same thing with Burgone. Will they still battle? Yes, they will, heading to Mulsanne.
Oh, great move there, of course. Trying to find a way through this one as the trees and the barriers flash past here down the southern end of the Mulsanne and coming over the crest. Oh, love seeing cars come up over that. It's just they disappear then reappear suddenly. You got the Team Cosmos car there just holding on right now, of course, as Pro Summit looking for an opening that nearly just crossed over slightly. Not quite got a wheel overlap as they tuck in behind here. Jordan Johnson pushing here with everything he's got to try to find an opening. Will he dive into Indianapolis? He's got an overlap now. Almost side by side here. He's holding alongside. Can he do it? It's going to be a right-hander, so this might not be good for him. But if he can hold it around his corner, he can dive into Indy, and he will have the advantage. But it's tight. It's so tight. It's so tight. They hold side by side. This is intense racing here up towards Adrian, and
crossover.
Will it do it? Will the crossover hold the position? It will. He secures it. Lovely move. Oh my god, that was amazing from Jordan Johnson. That was a battle. No, it's not over yet.
It's not over yet.
Cosmos. They're not playing this thing. They are sticking in there as it's about to get twisted as we enter the Porsche S's here. And round the outside will go Cosmos. Should be advantage then with a double left here as it gets super tight. Little contact as round goes Penguin. Oh, sorry, CMS Pro Summit Team. Oh my god, that was a titanic fight between those two cars. Oh, I really needed that to wake us up about an hour 40 into this thing.
Certainly so, as we take a look. You know, Rachel, one of the things we always like to do is let people enjoy the wonderful camera angles provided by Dougie Beard, as well as the sights and sounds. So before we go through the field, let's let them enjoy the sights and sounds here at Le Mans. Welcome back to coverage of event number 3 of the CMS iRacing Team Endurance Series, and it is now time to take you through the field, of course, courtesy of Penguin RC Complex. Of course, make sure you can visit them to get the latest in button boxes, and as you continue on here, you might be able to help out and have a chance to use it to help improve your sim racing and as well as pit strategy, Rachel, as we'll talk later on more about them later on. And right now your race leader is Paul Darling, Revo Satellite Racing, the race leader. He's taken the lead once again after climbing his way up through the field, as he currently holds on to a, get this, 19-second lead over second place Imperial Motorsports Shake, driven by Christopher Pies. Mr. Chip up in the box, trying to help them to see if they can make up time. It's going to be a tall order, though, in the closing minutes here. In third position, TNT Racing Carbon. Everett Paddock is actually on pit road right now in the third position, as he has just been passed by Rebellion Racing of John Taylor Tammy. Currently soloing this race, actually. His teammate had an unexpected emergency, so he will be running this race completely by himself. In the fifth position, Pneumatic Motorsports Blue of James Stacy is in the car right now, working his way through the Ford chicanes to complete one of his first laps here around the circuit. Sixth position, Pneumatic Motorsports Purple of Jimmy Hume is in the car right now after a driver's swap with Robert Tarbox, as he is working his way around some lap traffic in the GTE field. Seventh position, Jordan Johnson of the CMS Pro Summit team, currently right now in a heated battle with Drake Burgone in the Team Cosmos LMP2. Those two are battling for the 7th and 8th position. Ninth position is DDM Racing of Douglas Ritter. Pretty much has made a nice recovery through the field after a penalty he had to serve early in the going. Penguin RC's Complex Simworks Brian Sohn currently holds your 10th position right now, as he's trying to hold on to a top 10 finish here at Circuit de la Sarthe. 11th goes to Hard Promise Racing's Wayne Hutchinson in the plaid colors here, as he breaks over too much into Arnage, able to gather it back up and continue on his way. 12th position, Gabriel Albano in the Jakester Racing, the car without a Jake, as they work their way out of Arnage and continue on their way. Morgan Gillespie in the SimHQ Motorsports 1, the big brother to the two Smurfs cars in the GTE class, has had a tough break since the drop the green flag, with incidents happening all over the circuit, but able to hold on to a 13th position. 14th goes to Chip Witt in the WWZ Red 14 car, or the 14th position, car 79. And then rounding out your 15 car field is going to be George Dean right now, also one lap down in the number 29 Wildfire Racing Dragon. Rachel?
P1 in the GTE classes, Renault Alpine Racing with Jack Crisley, the car right behind him, heading to pit road, of course, is the Unified Performance Racing Machine of Justin Hess. They are 3.6 seconds apart. That gap has actually come down from what it was. P3, SimHQ Motorsports 3, Connor Denny is there with the 56 car, pushing as hard as he can in third. We'll see if they pit this time by. P4 is PG13 Racing, who have actually made a spot here. They're pushing hard with Ross Booth behind the wheel now for that team. P5 is Brian Van Bushcom for SimHQ Motorsports 2. Those cars finally separated on track after running together all race long. P number 6 is Auto X Sim Motorsports with Michael Parker behind the wheel of the 23 machine. They're currently running quite a considerable amount of time behind your lead 5. P7, Last Minute Racing, certainly not last at all. Mark Johnson in the 57 there, running a good 30 seconds back from P6. P8 is the 121 of Can-Am Canucks with David Slee behind the wheel, having one of the better races for the Can-Am crew overall of this thing. Running in 8th, as we mentioned. P9 is Team at Brake Fade. James Foster driving that car, the 40 machine, heading there into the Mulsanne corner, heading out now and round. P number 10, Longhorn Racing, Mike Tyler and their sister car right behind them there, the 44 machine, after an early bad start, fighting to gain back. P11, Longhorn Racing Lone Star, of course, Brett Stevens there right behind them, is also fighting alongside their sister car. P number 12 here is All Balls Racing with Paul Hamilton in the 77 car. They've been fighting pretty hard all day long. They're a couple of laps down at this point. P number 13, Brian Sablinski from Can-Am Express. They are currently 2 down from the race leader, but still fighting pretty hard in class. P14 NGP Motorsports, Michael Ogren doing what he can here to get that car forward. The BMW has been struggling today, but the 88 pushes on. Triple R Racing, Leonard Burke in 15th there, the 71 car, trying to get forward. Some damage on the car has been holding them back speed-wise. P16 is Can-Am Racing with Chris Hudson. They've had an unfortunate day today. 143, just hopes to finish, I think. And last but not least, the 17th on pit road, Warren McGarry in MMTR's Corvette, a 33 car, getting service and repairs. Well, that was your Penguin RC race report here from Circuit de la Sarthe in France. And the race is not over yet. We're coming up on our final 30 minutes, though, in just a few moments' time. So we're going to take a quick opportunity to talk about another one of our sponsors today. That is RacerWare. RacerWare was started out to help the sim racing DIY community with CNC services. With multiple machines at their disposal, they can offer up competitive pricing with a personal touch on the exact parts you need. The owner personally makes all pieces and makes sure they're shipped with the best quality. Contact them for a personalized quote and discuss your best options at racerware.com. And that's a fantastic actual option you can get, of course, Taylor. You know, you want to mount that particular button box you got from Penguin RC, but you want it mounted just here. Like, not quite there, but just here. You know, just slightly there at this angle. RacerWare can help you out. They can get it just right for you. And Taylor is dead. Long may we rest his soul.
I'm alive. I've been resurrected, of course. But what I was going to say was I was actually looking at their website while you were talking about RacerWare, and all the machinery and hard work that they do to help make these custom pieces for your sim racing equipment is phenomenal work. And the talent as well as the skill and also the quality of the work is phenomenal. So make sure to go check out our friends over at racerware.com as our P2 leaders are on pit road. We just saw earlier Paul Darling come down pit road to get his service completed, as well as Christopher Pies, James Stacy, Scott McIntyre, as well as they continue on their way as more LMP2 and GTE cars make their way down pit road.
Yeah, they certainly are. It's that GTE pit window right now for those guys. We'll see them coming in and out of pit road as this one goes forwards. But I'm seeing the difference between Renault Alpine Racing and Unified Performance as being so different today. The gap is slowly coming down, and last time by, Kurt Poulter put in a 3:54.648 to Renault's Hendrik de Zwart's 55.9. So that is 0.4 of a second faster, 0.5 of a second, half a second faster basically. Last lap round, and it's eating into that.
Certainly is, and some things that have been eating into is incident points. We are now down from 6 to 3 drivers who have a shot to get the consistency and safety award here at Circuit de la Sarthe. James Stacy in the Pneumatic Motorsports Blue, Imperial Motorsports Shake of Christopher Pies, and the Renault Alpine Racing of Jack Chrissy. And his, of course, Hendrik de Zwart is currently in the car right now. So 2 LMPs and 1 GTE. Of course, you are watching the CMS iRacing Team Endurance Series. Taylor Burris, myself here, along with Rachel Whiteford and Brian Bauer, our wonderful producer, giving you all the sights, sounds, colors, and storylines here at Circuit de la Sarthe.
Absolutely are, of course. It's been a great race here today in France. We've had some phenomenal action, some crazy moments, and an overall really intense event.
Very intense since the drop of the green flag here. We've seen incidents happening even with drivers such as David Williams, as well as the CMS Pro Summit team, who had an incident going into the Dunlop curves. And then, of course, drivers in the GTE who have been battling tooth and nail. Of course, the biggest battle is between the Renault Corvette and the Ferrari that's not red. So very interesting to see those two battling it out. And then, of course, back up in LMP2, it's no surprise, it's the Revo Satellite Racing boys. As we have a battle in P3 for the GTE class, 2 Corvettes going at it.
Absolutely do, and wow, it's definitely going for it right now. P4 and round that group as they're split by an LMP2 car. The SimHQ3 and PG13 take advantage and get the spot.
That was Jimmy Hume in the Pneumatic Motorsports Purple, splitting the difference between the two Corvettes as they make the run down to Mulsanne number 1. As we take a look at the replay on board with Jimmy Hume, you get a great front row seat of the action as they come out of Tête Rouge, heading down Mulsanne. There's the opening and right down the middle.
Yeah, it certainly is, and wow, that definitely made things a little spicier than they perhaps needed to be for the moment.
Very spicy indeed. We'll have to see if he is able to make up ground on his competitors, currently running in the 5th position. I would say about 15 seconds or 14.9 seconds back from Scott McIntyre in the TNT Racing Carbon.
Yeah,
Not missing.
it is, and the TNT Carbon car's been pushing pretty hard to get back from this one, and they've made a huge recovery drive.
They certainly have. They had to serve a penalty early on in the going for right now. So you're watching the best battle on the racetrack, as you see Connor Denny, Ross Booth going at it now in the PG-13 Racing Corvette. As you look back from the cameras provided by Dougie Beard to see if Connor Denny can get a good run, as it's now down to a second as more P2 cars snake their way by.
Yeah, it's really tricky to have a battle in the GTE class, of course, when you get this sort of action going on. It's just kind of busy. Really, really busy. Like, it just becomes incredibly hard to really worry about fighting your opposition when you're having to just basically let through those faster cars, and they aren't going to wait in some cases.
They certainly are not going to. They're going to try every which way to try and find a way around these GTRs or GTE cars as quickly as possible as another P2 car.
We had a bit of a real slow there from the SimHQ car as they came into Ariane and just lost a lot of speed really with the LMP2 car coming behind them. Had to go very wide and had to let him through, and it cost them on the exit.
It certainly did. Big time loss of time. It's now up to 2 seconds separating the two drivers right now. So unfortunate, as this was such a good battle for the final step of the podium.
Yeah, it really is crazy. I think they've got opportunity here for PG-13 to actually get something this one. They've had some pretty tragic races of late, and it's good to see them actually really putting this towards a podium finish.
It certainly has. We'll keep an eye on that battle to see if he can get anywhere closer up the field. He's currently about... well, there's no way and no chance for PG-13 Racing's Ross Booth to catch up to Kurt Poulter. He's about 36 seconds back from Kurt Poulter, as Kurt Poulter is trying to find a way to catch up to Hendrik de Zwarts, as those two are separated by about 2.5 seconds.
Yes. LMP leaders from Revo have lapped up to 10th place in their own class so far. That is impressive work by Revo Satellite Racing and Paul Darling, who's, wow, opened that gap to 28 seconds on Imperial Shake and Pneumatic Blue. That is crazy. From, wow, they're just on a different planet. 3:37 last time by Imperial Shake, and the 3:34, 3 seconds a lap faster. This is what happens when you only take fuel, boys. You get schooled.
And I think everyone's going to have to take a lesson from the Revo Satellite Racing team and see if they can find anything before they head to Monza, which will be, if we preview Monza right quick, Rachel, a very fast, high-speed circuit, even more so even than Le Mans, as we keep an eye on seeing what will happen there. Of course, a lot of tight corners, twisty bits as well, but also very challenging for any driver who goes there, no matter what car you take.
Absolutely. Monza is a high-speed circuit about getting those corner exits just right. There's a couple of really heavy chicanes that you have to really concern yourself with, and the start of the lap could be hectic at Monza, given the first chicane. But the Lesmos as well, you've got to be careful at those. It's overall a very, very busy circuit between the high speed and also narrow chicanes. Those chicanes are incredibly tight. They're not like the ones we have here. There's not a lot of runoff at Monza, and the chicanes are very sharp, so it will make for a very intense race.
It certainly is. Of course, we're wondering if we will even get to see the oval configuration. Possibly there's talk that they might use the combined circuit. So it would be much more, I think, interesting and I would say fun if they decided to take these cars on the oval part as well as the road course section.
That'd be interesting, but I hope they don't, because that would be kind of chaotic. That part is
would be so fun
for LMP2 cars. That would be insane.
But it would be so fun. And we have a little bit of movement in the GTE class as Kurt Poulter has got it down to less than 2 seconds. It's now 1.7 seconds separating the two drivers. As looking at timing and scoring right now, last lap, Hendrick De Vries was about a second fast, or about 0.4 of a second faster than Kurt Poulter. But we'll have to see what will happen as we keep an eye on those two battles. It's now down to 1.6 and closing between the two drivers. So Kurt Poulter in the Ferrari might have something for Hendrick De Vries in the Renault Corvette.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen real similarities throughout this whole series within all the GTE cars. We've not seen any of the Fords, surprisingly, but we've seen worse performance by the BMWs, perhaps, fastest performance by the Ferraris and the Corvettes, but mostly the Ferraris. It's been really strong for those guys. Is still telling.
It certainly has. I mean, the BMWs really haven't had the performance that they needed here this season. Porsche hasn't really had a major implication at all either in the CMS series. As we now keep an eye on the chat, it's now down to 1.1 seconds between the two, as Ferrari really has been the dominant car in the GTE class. Corvette's been the most consistent, as well as having more drivers finish inside the top 5, but it is none other than the Ferrari, and especially the United Performance Racing Ferrari of Kurt Poulter and Justin Hess, who have been the dominant car.
Yeah, it really is, and they have had such a great day. I'm interested to see what they'll do with the time we've got left. That time gap is coming down now. But this could be the battle of the race we're looking at here with 25 to go, really. It's going to get really tight in terms of how this thing could round up.
It certainly can, Rachel. We'll have to keep an eye on that battle right now. Is the best battle on the racetrack. It's now down to half a second between Kurt Poulter and Hendrick De Vries as they work their way down Mulsanne, heading towards the second chicane. And we see Poulter closing in. It's now down to 0.4 of a second. Closing even more, heading into the braking zone of the second Mulsanne. It's now down to 0.3 of a second. Poulter's trying to hit his marks to see if he can get a good run out of the Mulsanne chicane number 2 as they make the run down to Mulsanne corner. It's picked up a little bit now to 0.6 of a second as now one of the LMP2 cars of Jimmy Hume works their way around.
Yeah, they're doing what they can with this one, of course, and the LMP2 cars are not going to make their lives easy in this one. We used to have a battle in LMP2, but not anymore, as they are absolutely going to town on this one. PG-13 is sitting in a good open ground, but it's all on Kurt Poulter here to see what he can do as they head into Mulsanne corner at the bottom here. It's going to be tight, and I think he's had a faster run overall, 350.1 last time. We're now playing 351.9, so a whole second difference. He's coming on, and I think it might be time for the tyres on the Renault. Looking incredibly close here. I mean, we're about to inspire Kurt Poulter with the thoughts of his car being red for the next round, and maybe they should stick to that colour, because maybe it will do them better. Well, we know it being the Ferrari magic colour. You should do this, Kurt Poulter. Justin Hess. Paint it red. You know you want to. It's the right decision. You'll go faster.
Paint it red. It's more like
Stones paint it black, but paint it red instead. It would definitely be more effective.
It would be more effective, as here comes Kurt Poulter with a head of steam through the Porsche curves. He has caught up 0.3 of a second separate the two drivers as they work their way under the Michelin bridge and through the final set of chicanes. The Corvette curve they are now on as we see the Ferrari versus Corvette. We've seen this type of battle before in motorsports as well as they come out. Hendrick runs a little bit offline. That causes now Kurt Poulter to duck to the inside. He'll go side by side as they make the run to Fort Chicane. Who will be the braver of the two as they enter the braking zone? Kurt Poulter will, and hit his mark. Holds on and back up to the front of the field. Kurt Poulter at the BMW goes off in front of them, continues on their way as Kurt Poulter in the United Performance Racing Ferrari back up front. Once again, the new leader back up. Well, not the new leader, but the returning race leader.
Taylor, just
Yes.
got Can-Am Canucks, I believe it was, or one of the Can-Am cars. Go up to Can-Am Racing, so they went off the track and they're now on they're crossing the start-finish line there on the grass. That car's got some serious problems, I think.
It certainly does. Let's take a look at that Can-Am Express BMW as we'll take a look at the replay. Yeah, it's very much crawling to a start as it overshot the corner and it's just spun the car out. You're on board with Chris Hudson in the Can-Am Racing BMW. As he hits the curb there, I think this curb right here is what does it. Yep, loses control, heads almost. Does he hit the barrier? No, he doesn't, but that gravel does affect some issues to the underside of that BMW for sure.
Yeah, unfortunate for those guys, but that might be the end of their race, at least for now, as keeping our eyes on the head here. Oh, we've got a pass, actually. We missed the pass there for the lead of GTE, but Kurt Poulter's got past.
Yeah, Kurt Poulter just got past when I was actually in.
Am I having a third stroke of the race?
This is your third stroke. Careful, Rachel. Do we need to?
Yeah.
Do we need to call an ambulance for you?
Yeah, probably. It is close there right now, Taylor, as you can see here. I mean, look at this. Poulter's got it away, but it's not going to be forever as we've got a lot of LMP2s coming through.
Certainly so, as we keep an eye on that. The LMP2s quickly negotiate past both the United Performance Racing Ferrari and the Renault Alpine Racing Corvette as they move away. And we will go and take a quick look at P8 in LMP, I believe, or yes, LMP. This is between Douglas Ritter and David Santiago. Team Cosmos versus DDM Racing.
Yeah, DDM trying to get something extra after this one. It's been busy today for that crew, but they've had a great fight, and we've seen the same with TMS, of course, and Cosmos, but Cosmos right now having to hold off DDM as they come right up behind them here, and last time by was a 3:35.9 for Douglas Ritter. Cosmos a 3:36.9, so second a lap faster. We might be seeing a pass coming out.
As they work their way down the Mulsanne Straight, we're going to see if Douglas Ritter can find a way around David Santiago for that 8th position. As he'll take a look to the inside, thanks Betterup, as we have ourselves another Ask the Booth question. Rachel, have you ever ridden in the front or the rear of an ambulance? I'm guessing that's because of your stroke you've been having.
Both, actually, would be the correct
Both, okay, good.
I have ridden in the front of them, both military and civilian ambulances, and I have been in the back twice as a patient, once with a patient. That wasn't when I was working in the ambulance. So yeah, been in a few. Hopefully not tonight. Although I can tell you, as an interesting booth fact, I have broken 17 unique bones in my body over my life.
I think I only got one.
Yeah.
So you definitely beat me. You have been busy.
Horse riding, mountain biking, and skiing. You will break things. And netball in college, and pretending to be a superhero in preschool. Long story, fractured skull.
That sounds like what my brother does when he was young, when he broke his arm, was trying to be a superhero.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I feel like I'm not living life if I'm not experiencing new things, and I suck at things until I've done it for a while. So, yeah, I tend to bounce.
Well, as Rachel continues to try and not bounce or end up in the back of an ambulance here today, we're going to watch to see if the back half of this field is going to continue to do battle. Douglas Ritter tries to go the long way around of David Santiago as they go through Indianapolis. Goes a little offline, hits the gravel a little bit, but continues on the way as they head over into Arnage.
Yeah, certainly going for it to see what they can pull out of this thing, as we've got 20 on the clock officially now till the end of this thing. It's been busy so far today.
P2 is now down to 1 second in LMP2. James Stacy has caught up to Christopher Pies in the Imperial Motorsports Shake as they work out of the Mulsanne quarter, heading down this straight before they get to Indianapolis. The last lap was a second and a half faster over to James Stacy that time around, so a big difference in time. Stacy on the move, trying to see if he can get in second. Watching here as the battle between the two drivers. James Stacy gets a good run out of Indianapolis as they make the short run to Arnage. He'll take a peek. He can't quite make it work yet, but has to continue pressing forward as they make the run towards the Porsche curves. Underneath the Porsche bridge, they will go. James Stacy utilizing the slipstream right now, but also Christopher Pies has help for one of the Can-Am cars in front of him as they work their way towards the Porsche curves. Here they go to the inside of the Can-Am's Canucks, Drew Ledecky. Here through the Porsche curves, Stacy trying to find a way to catch up and make up ground on Christopher Pies. Pies hits his mark through the passing of the Michelin Bridge. Here for the final set of corners here. Stacy gets a good run off corner exit right here. That allows him to make up the ground between him and Pies. Will he make a run, though, as they make the head towards the Porsche chicanes?
Certainly is, and he's going to do what he can with this one. No, they're both pitting. Okay, interesting time for it, but whoever nails this pit cycle could actually be the one coming out here advantageously. And with 20 minutes to go, they don't need full fuel, so if they take slightly less fuel, this could be a big boost for the amount of time they spend. And I'm pretty sure one of them is going to try and not take tyres. Whilst we're taking some stops, it might be a good time to think about one of the sponsors, of course, for the series, Complex SimWorks. If you're looking for affordable sim racing accessories for your rig, check out Complex SimWorks. They offer 3D printing and custom design services for your sim racing setup at affordable prices, and they have a lot of new products in development. Head over to their website at complex-simworks.com. That is complex with a C-O-M-P-L-X, like it says on the screen there, -simworks.com, and see how you can upgrade your racing rig today.
And as the field is working their way to complete their pit stops, I just saw Christopher Pies has just left pit box, while James Stacy, he's still on pit road. So a very long pit stop for the Pneumatic Motorsports Blue of James Stacy.
Yeah, trying to get that thing done here as we're going to have a little quick sights and sounds here for you guys. As the drivers get tired, so do we. But you know what? The track never sleeps, nor does it lose the energy it gets during this race. We'll be back in a few moments.
Welcome back to coverage of event number 3 of the CMS iRacing Team Endurance Series live from the Circuit de la Sarthe. Of course, myself, Taylor Burris, Rachel Whiteford, and Ryan Bauer bringing you all the stories, sights, and sounds, and many more here as we are in the final closing minutes here at Circuit de la Sarthe. Your leaders in LMP2 goes as follow. Rebel Satellite Racing's Paul Darling and David Williams leads in P2. Meanwhile, in the GTE class, it is Unified Performance Racing Ferrari, Kurt Poulter and Justin Hess leading right now. And Rachel, as we look through the field, a couple of good battles to keep an eye on is that battle for 5th position. It's between the two team cars in SimHQ Motorsports, Connor Denny and Brian View-Biscombe. Those two are battling it out for position, not pushing each other too hard because they are teammates, but showing a respective battle amongst themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going for this thing to try and make this ending as good as they can. And I'm also excited to see what happens with TNT Carbon, of course, up towards the front here, because they're currently scored in second. But we know that Pneumatic Purple and Imperial Shake have pitted here. So we have the running order a bit shaken up in LMP2 here, but it will definitely work out, I think.
Certainly will, as we keep an eye on Jimmy Hume in that Pneumatic Motorsports Purple as he's working his way through. You're on board with Brian Van Bescombe as he works his way down Mulsanne with his team car in front of him as they enter Mulsanne 1. They have a P2 car right behind them. I believe that's the DDM Racing of Douglas Ritter behind those two Corvettes as they head down Mulsanne again, heading towards the second of the two Mulsanne chicanes.
Absolutely are going for this thing, trying to build some time here. DDM, of course, made that move on Cosmos, and it's going to be, I think, their position to lose in this one unless they make a mistake.
They certainly are as they work their way through the second Mulsanne chicane, keeping an eye on those two battling it out. You're not missing anything up towards the front of the field in either class. Currently, Paul Darling has a 56-second lead over Scott McIntyre, and Kurt Poulter has a 5.2-second lead over Hendrik de Zwart in the Renault Alpine Racing Corvette. So nothing major to contend. Keeping an eye on some of the podium finishes. Nothing major as well to have a major battle in podium. But let's go back to LMP2 briefly. They have a battle for 8th position between DDM Racing's Douglas Ritter and Team Cosmos Racing David Santiago. As they work their way towards Mulsanne, you're on board with David Santiago as they hit the brakes heading into Mulsanne as they make down the long straightaway. Considered actually to be the longest straight here on the circuit. People think, well, what about Mulsanne? Well, Mulsanne has 2 chicanes in the middle of it, so that doesn't count as the longest straightaway on this circuit. And this is where we can see some major speeds as well for some of these drivers as they work their way down underneath the Toyota Bridge. They'll hit speeds of about 195 before having to let loose and head towards Indianapolis.
Absolutely are, and well, there could still be a chance that gap is starting to shrink slightly, but it's coming to the pretty late stages of the race here as I believe we're looking at 9 minutes left of the clock here, and time's running out, but it's going to be tight.
Very tight indeed. 9 minutes to go left on the clock. We have run 39 laps around Circuit de la Sarthe, and of course, could you imagine if we did this for 24 hours? We would need more help if we decided to do something like that. And a lot more. We gotta love our producer Ryan Bauer bringing us all the smiles in the behind the scenes to try to help us keep us morale going as we continue to press forward here. It's an endurance just to do a commentary for these kind of races, Rachel.
Oh, it kind of is, and that's one of the biggest challenges of endurance commentary is, of course, pacing yourself over the duration, because it's one thing to do a sprint race, even a couple of sprint races. Of course, I know we do the Porsche Club of America on Fridays, and that gets incredibly hectic there, of course. We're going to see DDM passing the 2 SimHQ cars, 3 and 2 there, currently sitting 4th and 6th in class, as, you know, even 4 30-minute races that we do for the Porsche Club of America, it doesn't feel anywhere near as intense as doing 2.5 hours of constant commentary on a single race.
It certainly is, and of course, you have the thing is, you have endurance racing in it, so you have different drivers swapping in and out every so often. As your big issue for David Santiago has to check up big time That's one of the things when it comes to multi-class racing, the differentials of speed right there. As this Connor Denny had to check up a little bit to make the corner, that allowed David Santiago to almost make contact with him. Now he's able to get around and pull away as they head down Mulsanne.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's going to be a tough run for this one, but I think there's still some time left in this. I don't think you can get a catch CMS Pro Summit. They're a little bit too far away right now at the second chicane down the Mulsanne, but I think the gap between them and Cosmos is definitely widened to the point now where I don't think it's going to be a contest.
Certainly is not. In fact, the CMS team is actually 32 seconds ahead of Douglas Ritter right now, so no major pressure for Jordan Johnson and the CMS Pro Summit team. As we look throughout the field to see if there's any more battles, let's go a little further back in the GTE field. Yes, this battle, but as we actually, before we do that, the teammates are going to go at it. Here they go side by side for the position of fourth. They then swap over as there goes a little bit wide. That's a big issue right there for Connor Denny as he went wide through the second Mulsanne chicane, and that will allow Brian to get around him and hold on to the fourth position. But I believe Paul Darling is about to come by them and whiz by past the two Corvettes. That's your race leader overall, and LMP2 go by.
Yeah, definitely going kind of a bit crazy right now with how fast this is moving. As these final moments, it starts to get tighter and tighter, and the pace of the race is picking up here, as these are what positions people are fighting to finish with, and this is where it really matters. So we're not talking about, positions during a pit cycle. This is for everything, and it's looking like it may filter out here. Fingers crossed that we don't throw this thing, but Revo Satellite Racing had a phenomenal run. Paul Darling has been lightning in that car. Unified Performance Racing, Kurt Bolter, equally so. Absolutely rapid, but I can't put anything against Renault Alpine Racing. Hendrik de Zwart and his teammate, of course, in that car, Jack Chrisley, they've had an amazing race. That car has been incredible.
It certainly has been incredible indeed to watch this drive from both drivers of Kurt Poulter and Hendrik de Zwart, as Connor Denny has lost time on his teammate Brian in the number 34 Corvette, as you're now on board with James Stacy in the Pneumatic Motorsports Blue, as he is 6 seconds faster than TNT Carbon of Scott McIntyre. So he is 2 seconds back from the fourth place. He is right there. You can see on screen, there's the gap right there. So this could be a battle for the fourth position.
Yeah, it really could be a battle for fourth, and it's definitely picking up, as this one could develop into something. We've often seen these guys coming together as, finishing teammate car, and it's always made us think, will they actually fight this thing out? From what they've told us in the past, yeah, they will if they're close enough. We've got cars pitting just up ahead, actually.
Seeing if we have a couple of cars up ahead. Actually, we have our race leader on pit road. Paul Darling has come down pit road. Did not have enough fuel to make it.
He's got a minute on the lead, so he could do this, actually, if he's just topping fuel.
Thing is, though, we have to see what will happen. He does have a 1 minute and 23 second lead. Here's John Taylor Tammy in the Rebellion Racing LMP2. Of course, unfortunately, since he does not have a teammate, I don't know if they will allow him to do that. And now Paul Darling has just been released. He will continue on his way.
Yeah, he's away, top off on the fuel there, and he's out of here. So keeps that lead by a good margin. 10-second gap now. Oh, he got 10 seconds of fuel, so that should last them
the final 3 minutes.
Laps, so that should do him. He should be fine.
Here comes John Taylor Tammy as he comes out of the final couple of corners here to make his way. And unfortunately, the gap right now between him and third of Christopher Pies is about 11 seconds, as he'll also come down pit road. Big lockup for him, as right in front of him, I don't know which car that is. Is that the Complex Simworks P2?
Yeah, I think it could be filtering out that way once it becomes in order, but it's looking like it could.
Yeah, he has significant damage to the nose of that P2 car. Have a battle for the ninth. Go ahead.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, please.
No, you. Okay, 9th and 10th place right now. Looking at Team Brake Fade there, and I believe that's Can-Am Express right behind them. This is definitely coming down to the wire as it's 4th position here. Can-Am Express coming on fast. Looking to the outside here as they're going to head down towards Indianapolis, being the next big corner, and they're going to pull alongside here. They'll have the advantage under the Toyota hybrid sign here. Can they clear brake fade? Yes, they can. That secures them the spot as they head down into Indianapolis, and it should be a locked position, but they've got some LMP2 cars coming that could open the door again.
Here they come, the LMP2 cars. They're going to take a peek to the inside of these drivers as we watch on, see what will they able to do as they enter into Arnage. James Foster having a lot of presence of P2 cars on his tail. Brian Sableski trying to hold on. That is the 61 of Douglas Ritter, snaking his way by these GTE cars of the 2 BMWs and the Corvette, and now sets his sight on the Longhorn Racing Ferrari. One and a half minutes left to go on the clock for Paul Darling and David Williams of the Revo Satellite Racing. This team has been dominant. They have not yet lost a race this season. They are going for the trifecta, the hat trick here at Circuit de la Sarthe, along with Kurt Poulter, Justin Hess in the United Performance Racing, not Red Ferrari, as they have definitely shown that Gray actually can do well. Thanks. As DDM Racing has come down pit road to get some top off of fuel.
Yeah, it's going to be another top off like most of the cars are going for in this thing, as it's definitely coming to a really short close here. 3rd place, though, we're getting a battle forming up here, and that's going to be in the P2 class here, and it's going to be TNT Carbon fighting here with Imperial Shake, and I think they're going to struggle to get this one back.
It's going to be a struggle indeed right now, but as we watch, the Pneumatic Blue will try to find his way around the Carbon and will get around. Not quite yet. McIntyre will fight back on the outside as they go into Indianapolis. A little bit of brake lockup for both drivers. McIntyre into the gravel trap. Stacy gives them room to recover into Arnage. To the inside, Stacy will go. Here they come out of Arnage. Still going to be over to Scott McIntyre as they head down out of Arnage.
Getting really, really down to the wire in this one. Looking at the race clock, we have
white flag,
I think, to 0. Rebellion just got DQ'd. Yep, so that's 2nd place DQ'd, and that reason shift things around.
It certainly is. Now, the reason why they're being disqualified is they do not have a second driver in the car. John Taylor Tammy has been running this entire race by himself, which is not part of the rules. You must have a co-driver to run this race. So John Taylor Tammy decided just to run as far as for fun. He did this entire race by him, Craig. He was up to 6th. In fact, up to 2nd. Yeah, he was actually up to 2nd before his disqualification. So a big round of applause for John Taylor Tammy, who will not able to take home a top 6 finish, but still a great effort for that driver as our field has taken the white flag. Revo Satellite Racing's Paul Darling is now on the back half of the straightaway here, heading into the 2nd Mulsanne chicane. He's working his way around one of the SimHQ Motorsports drivers. That it was, I believe, that was Brian Van Buscombe. So that will move him up through the field as Douglas Ritter works his way by as well. Heading into Mulsanne for the final time, Paul Darling hits his marks to try to make it through. Gets a little bit squirrely, but is able to hold on.
Yeah, he's going for this thing, and it's looking pretty solid for him right now, as he's not looking like he'll be challenged by Imperial Shake. They're just coming out of I believe that's the second corner on the Mulsanne there. Revo are heading down towards Indianapolis now. This thing looks to be in the bag for those guys. It's been a crazy race, and Paul Darling's run back through the field there was amazing.
Certainly was, as Kurt Poulter and Justin Hess, your leaders in GTE, come across to take their white flag for them as they have one more lap to go. They currently have a 10-second lead over the Renault Alpine Racing. Hendrik de Zwart's currently in the car now, trying to see if he can find a way to catch up, but it's going to be a tall order for that Corvette, as here comes Darling through the Porsche curbs for the final time. He has a little bit of lap traffic in front of them, but he's going to take his time. He has all the time in the world. Through the Michelin bridge he will go, as he hits his marks coming up to the back bumper. I believe that's David Santiago, the Team Cosmos driver. He has lapped up to 7th overall in the field as he comes around David Santiago past the forward chicanes, coming down towards pit entrance. Checkered flag is about to wave. 6 cars finishing on the lead lap here, as here comes Revo Satellite Racing's Paul Darling, David Williams. They complete the hat trick and win at Circuit de la Sarthe.
Amazing run from them in an incredible fashion here. Great race. Paul Darling put a comeback in that car, but David Williams had a phenomenal drive too. That cannot be understated. And we're going to see the last lap here, of course, from the likes of Kurt Poulter in Unified Performance Racing in the GTE field, who still have one more to go. We're still waiting though for Imperial Motorsports Shake to come across the line. They're coming to the Porsche curves right now. That's how far back they were.
Certainly so. It was about 1 minute and 2 seconds when Paul Darling crossed the start-finish line here, as we keep an eye on this. 1/3 of a lap difference between the two drivers throughout this section of the race here, as here comes Christopher Pies, Mr. Chip, probably giving him that final push in order to help him get to the checkered flag. A good, strong podium finish. As we keep an eye, as we now have to go to the P3 battle, because that's still raging on. James Stacy trying to find around Scott McIntyre as they come through the 4 chicanes. Traffic in front of them. Will Stacy try to send it? Big lockup. Contact. Around goes Stacy. And that will be interesting to see what happens. But James Stacy will get to hold on to 4th, as he has about a 10-second lead over his teammate, Jimmy Hume. But a big contact and a big send for the two drivers.
Yeah, watching that back on my side, and he tried to dive it in a bit hard and it just put him round. Unfortunate, but he should be okay in terms of not losing a spot, but he's not going to gain the one he tried to go for there. Late for a move, I think.
Still keeping an eye on our GTE leader of Kurt Poulter. He's just now comes out of Indianapolis, heading over to Arnage, as we are closing in here in the final few drivers to make their way to the line.
Amazing run. Just phenomenal driving from everybody involved in this thing. It's been an incredible race, and we're seeing Arnage now for Unified Performance Racing. Going to be the Porsche curves next for Kurt Poulter, and we'll see the GTE podium coming across the line shortly after that. Renault Alpine not far behind them. PG13 coming home soon as well, and wow, 2.5 hours of racing has been intense for these guys.
It certainly has. Here comes the gray Ferrari of Kurt Poulter as they work their way towards the Ford chicanes for the final time. Checkered flag is out, and here comes Kurt Poulter completing another trifecta, as they have won the last 3 races here in the CMS iRacing Team Endurance Series. Coming across the line, Kurt Poulter, Justin Hess win at Circuit de la Sarthe.
Yeah, phenomenal drive from those guys. Renault Alpine Racing as well. Can't be understated how well those guys drove today. Between Christian and Zwart, it's been a fantastic drive by those guys. PG13 as well. Big hands to those guys. Ross Booth will bring it home in the 26 car for PG13 Racing, 3rd place in your GTE class.
Well, with that, let us go ahead and give you the full field rundown here of event number 3 at Circuit de la Sarthe. Your race winner, of course, he has gone for the trifecta. Revo Satellite Racing's David Williams, Paul Darling take home the checkered flag. 2nd place goes to Leif Peterson, Christopher Pies of Imperial Motorsports Shake, and then Scott McIntyre brings the TNT Racing Carbon into third, your podium finishers. Fourth place goes to Pneumatic Motorsports Blue, followed by the sister car Pneumatic Motorsports Purple in fourth and fifth. Sixth place, the last car on the lead lap overall, is CMS Pro Summit Team. Seventh place goes to the first car one lap down, DDM Racing, followed by Team Cosmos Racing in eighth. Ninth goes to Hard Promise Racing, followed by the Jakester Racing in 10th position. 11th position goes to SimHQ Motorsports 1, followed by Wildfire Racing Dragon in 12th. 13th goes to WWZ Red. 14th is the Penguin RC Complex Simworks, and then, of course, finishing out the LMP2 field, Rebellion Racing disqualified.
Coming home with the win in GTE Unified Performance Racing with Renault Alpine Racing in second place, PG13 on the last step of the podium in third. SimHQ in fourth with their Motorsport 2 car, and SimHQ Motorsports 3 in fifth place. Sixth place is AutoX Sim Motorsports in the 23 car, followed by Last Minute Racing in seventh. Can-Am Canucks in eighth. Ninth place, Longhorn Racing Lone Star. 10th place, Can-Am Express. 11th place, Team Break Fade. 12th, All Balls Racing. 13th, NGP Motorsports. 14th, Longhorn Racing. 15th, Triple R Racing. Can-Am Racing in 16th, and MMTR in 17th.
And with that, that is your full field rundown as we now bring in here our winners in LMP2. Welcome back, gentlemen. David Williams, Paul Darling going for the trifecta. David, let's start with you. You had a phenomenal run, but a very interesting start in going into the Dunlop curves. Your thoughts on the opening stint for you?
So y'all saw that, huh?
We did see that.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, honestly. I backed the corner up, way up. I had moved forward, brake bias in the car. The cars would just not be denied. It was going to spin. I guess it wanted to spin there.
Well, you still was able to get back up to the race lead and have a strong performance till driver change. And Paul, tell us about the strategy that you had going on there.
It's pretty straightforward. There was an option if you could save 2 laps that you wouldn't have to take a splash at the end, but we just pushed for the lap time, and since we had a bit of a gap, we just tried to run our pace and just keep it chugging.
Well, you certainly did keep it cooking. You actually pulled out to by over a minute here at Circuit de la Sarthe with your win here. Your thoughts on for both of you, your domination in this series so far. What is it that's helped both of you as a team work together in order to pull off this trifecta?
Well, David and I have been working together a lot on this P2 car ever since it came out. Just so we've got a really good foundation with satellite racing and just developing the setups and just really coming to grips with the car. So I think it's just that we've put a lot of work into this car since it came out, and I think it shows.
Well, we look ahead now to Monza. Your thoughts on that circuit and what you expect?
I hate Monza, but it's gonna be another interesting one. It'll be hard to break away from the draft, probably just like it was today at the start. So yeah, looking forward to it. And I definitely want to apologize real quick to the CMS Pro team that got involved with us there. They had nowhere to go, but it was unfortunate that they ended up with more damage and had to pit.
David, any thoughts about Monza for you?
Survive turn 1, lap 1. That's my focus.
Sounds like a very good plan indeed. Well, gentlemen, congratulations on your win. We look forward to seeing you at the next round at Monza. That is Paul Darling and David Williams, your winners with Revo Satellite Racing. And Rachel has caught up with our GTE winners, Justin Hess and Kurt Poulter.
Absolutely have. Thank you very much, Taylor. Justin and Kurt, a fantastic race, even if your car was the wrong color. It seemed like you were slightly behind the first half, but once, Kurt, you got behind the wheel, I think you took what we discussed during the broadcast to heart and imagined it was more red than just the number plates.
Exactly.
Oh, fantastic. No, a great race from you guys. pole to the win, of course, and the biggest challenge from Renault Alpine Racing in their incorrect Corvette on home turf for that team, of course, being French drivers. How was it for you out there?
So, obviously for me, it went decent, but I got to give credit to Jack. He had the pace on me today, and it was very impressive run he managed to put in. And Kurt really did all the work for me, so I can't say much in my regard.
I think it went pretty well. The Corvette definitely had the pace on us today. At least it seemed that way. Justin normally has the pace on everybody, so it's always nice having a quick teammate. But yeah, today went great. Can't ask for anything more.
What a fantastic drive, of course. And you guys actually bagged the fastest lap in GTE entire class, which would be expected seeing as you won. Yes, you bagged the fastest lap, of course, in class. So congratulations, boys, on that one. And
awesome.
A great race overall. Make sure you change the car for next time. Thanks.
We'll try.
Thanks for joining us. That was
all right.
Justin Hess and Kurt Poulter of the Unified Performance Racing. Before we let you go, guys, anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
Yeah, just thanking CMS for putting the whole thing on and the sponsors of it. They've done a great job, and it's been a fun time.
Yeah, just like to thank Vandalia Range and Armory and Evolve Range Solutions for their support.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Taylor?
Here we are next up with our P2 finishers in LMP2, Chris Pies, Lee Peterson, and Chris, you try to get a good run here to try to go for the doubleheader wins this weekend with PCA and of course here at Circuit de la Sarthe. But you did get one award. You did get the award for being the safest driver in LMP2. So both you and Leaf, congratulations on that. But your thoughts on the track conditions for you here at Circuit de la Sarthe?
Well, the conditions were pretty awesome. I mean, this is a mega track. It's all the history that's here, and it's just awesome to be able to kind of recreate that a little bit today. But we ran on one set of tires the whole time, and Leaf got the benefit of having the new. And then by the time I got the car, I was all used up. So
hey, I saved you so much tire. I left him with 73% of the fronts left.
Oh, that's very commendable of you, Leaf. Let's talk about your run then early on with all the chaos that ensued on that opening lap of how you were able to survive then.
Yeah, so like he was saying, this is a mega track, but you're always nervous here, regardless of how well you know it, because you never know what's going to happen, because there's always shenanigans in the beginning. And this was no exception at the beginning. So it's just all of our endurance races, we know if we can keep the car clean, we'll have a decent result. So just do everything you can. We got lucky. Some of the guys here were way faster and got held up in the beginning. So we benefited. We inherited third, back from sixth, I think, and just try to hold on to Jason and David as long as we could. Like I said, saving tires. I knew we were gonna not take tires. So, I'm looking at it down in the replay right now while you guys are playing this. But it came out, worked out just like we couldn't have asked for a better race. That's all.
So we look ahead right quick to Monza. Your thoughts on, for both of you, the preparation and your thoughts on the track.
Well, Monza's known as the, temple of speed for a reason. It's very similar, in my opinion, to Le Mans with the big long straights, and you need a trimmed out car. So hopefully we can take the setup that we developed for this weekend and take it to Monza, do a little bit of tweaking, but it's a great track. Another one of those just historic places that it's just a blessing to be able to run on. So we're looking forward to it.
Well, before we let you go, anyone you would like to say thank you to?
Thanks to you guys for putting on another good show. I appreciate it for when you do this and you do your other broadcasts that you're involved with. So thank you. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you, Taylor and Rachel. I appreciate it. And, can't wait to see you next week.
I want to echo that. Also, thank you to Doug Atkinson, Jason Lundy, David Anderson, especially, who these guys all do so much to put on a great series. I know, Doug must do nothing else. This must be his full-time gig.
It certainly seems that way sometimes, but again, congratulations, Chris, Leaf. We look forward to seeing you at Monza and, of course, next Friday night for the PCA.
Thank you, sir.
And from one group of safe drivers to a trifecta of safe drivers, Rachel has caught up with the Renault Alpine Racing Corvette team of Jack Chrissy, Hendrik de Wort, and Francois Bru.
Absolutely have. Thank you very much. Yes, of course, safest driver award going to, in the GTE class, Renault Alpine Racing. So congratulations, guys. A very clean, safe race, and a home race for your team, of course.
Oui, merci.
Well, a wonderful, wonderful race for you guys, of course, in your incorrect Corvette / Renault. Did racing on French soil help you go faster today?
I mean, I give all credit to Jack. Honestly, he ran an amazing first 2 stints, and then also credit to Francois for doing an amazing job with Jack setting the car up, but unfortunately just wasn't feeling up for it for the race.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I want to try and run the French flag in the front as much as possible, so I got the chance and took advantage of it.
You guys certainly did, of course. A challenging race. And what were you doing with the GT cars in terms of the strategy for this one, in terms of tires and fuel?
Okay, I'm going to answer this one then, since I'm the one who's putting things together strategy-wise. No, but the goal was anyway to match what Justin and the other team would do, and so we wanted to last as long as possible with the fastest drivers up front. And since the tire wear was kind of a concern since they changed with the latest patch, we knew that we wouldn't go further than 2 stints, so we pushed as further as we can, and then we tried to match just enough for the fair share of driving to get Hendrik at the end to finish and keep what we had already built up. So it was pretty straightforward strategy, but I think the other team also did exactly the same, and it paid out. Yeah, that's good.
Well, certainly a fantastic run, and it was great to see the French tricolor flying out front of the field for a good portion of this race. So congratulations to you guys as a team. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank?
Definitely, I think I want to give out a shout out to PG13, their Convert sister team, and we've been putting in some work with them, so having some fast guys to run with is always a help, so I have to give a shout out to those guys.
Yeah, and then a quick shout out to Renault and Alpine for helping with La Corvette. It is a great French car. Huh?
With the accent, thank you.
Eh bah ouais, bah bien sûr.
Oui.
Well, merci, gentlemen, and congratulations on P2.
Merci.
Thank you very much.
Merci.
Okay, back to you, Taylor. I think he's dead again.
I am not dead.
We have to put the key in the back of the
defibrillator.
Crank it up. No, your clockwork. You have to
clockwork
wind up every now and again.
Yes, you do. Well, we're here with...
We have P3.
We do have P3. So this is Everett Paddock for TNT Racing Carbon. Everett, you had a great run even after serving a penalty to begin with. Your thoughts on the entire race for you today?
Yeah, it was good for us to get a finish. The penalty kind of put us on our back foot, but Scott and I battled hard. I saw that Scott was battling with James all the way to the last corner, the last lap. That was fun stuff.
Your thoughts on that final lap when you were battling with James Stacy coming to the line and the incident that happened going through the Ford chicanes, your thought on that matter?
Well, I think I'll just let the replay speak for itself. I mean, you're racing hard at the end of the race, both guys trying to win. So it's are both trying to finish their best. So, can't blame the guys for trying, but it looked like just a racing incident in my view.
And finally, before we let you go, Everett, your thoughts on going to Monza in a couple of weeks' time?
Looking forward to it. Hopefully, Monza a little freer, little easier to get through traffic. Should be fun. But it's been fun racing with these guys, and looking forward to the chance to do it again.
Of course, and we look forward to seeing you racing with you and Scott McIntyre, who are in the TNT Racing Carbon, coming home P3 here today at Circuit de la Sarthe. And finally, Rachel has caught up with our P3 finishers in GTE, the fan favorites, Cameron Bidwell, Ross Booth of PG13 Racing.
Absolutely is, and their driving today was anything but PG-13. It was full on R-rated, as we have got Cameron and Ross here. A busy day out on track, and you guys are up and down that field like a ladder.
Oh, it was pretty crazy. I don't really feel like I helped a whole lot today. Unfortunately, in my first stint, I made 2 very dumb mistakes and cost us a significant amount of lap or track position, but was able to, keep my head clear and just focus on the the rest of the stint and try to put down some decent laps, and hoping that Ross could throw together some good laps, which he did, and came through with a podium.
Certainly a tough track here, Ross, at Circuit de la Sarthe. Does this present any unique challenges compared to other more conventional circuits?
I think you race this track with your head instead of the steering wheel. Unfortunately, we had issues at the start of the race and we weren't able to fuel save. That's a big key to this track, able to save fuel and able to take a shorter stop at the end, and that's where you gain all your track position.
Certainly a tactical circuit for a tactical race. It was a monumental one, though, to come back and get a third, so it's been good for you guys to actually hit that podium in this race. What are your hopes for Monza?
I think we're actually going to have Alex back on Monza. Ross stepped in this week, which was awesome. We really want to thank him for sure on stepping up. Monza is a track that I personally really like and have raced GTEs at already. So looking forward to that one. It's fast and just a ton of fun. So I think we're going to have another good PG-13 showing on that one.
Awesome. Well, fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Anybody like to give a shout out to you guys?
Shout out to all the PG-13 guys. Shout out to all of you again. Shout out to Ross for stepping up and this week and helping out our team. Yeah, Ross, I don't know about you.
Yeah, just first time racing in this league. Awesomely great. Everyone's great, and it's really well ran. So happy to be here and happy to have me. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us, guys. Cameron Bidwell and Ross Booth of the PG-13 Racing Team coming home today, 3rd in GTE.
Thank you.
Before I toss this thing back to Taylor, I'm going to hit on a couple of the awards that were given out during this race. Of course, we mentioned already Safest Driver Awards, which were LMP2, Imperial Motorsports Shake, and for GTE was Renault Alpine Racing. We also mentioned the hard charger in the race. Most positions gained in GTE was Auto X Sim Motorsports, and the fastest lap awards, or designations, were for LMP, Revo Satellite, and GT Unified Performance. So the 2 winners, ironically, Taylor got the fastest laps.
So the 2 winners got the fastest laps. The 2 second-place finishers got the safest driver award. So very congratulated to all of our winners, podium finishers, and award winners for today's race here at Circuit de la Sarthe. Well, before we come to a close, though, Rachel, we have to thank some other people, though.
We certainly do, of course, and let's not forget those include the likes of Penguin RC, Gridfinder, RaceAware, and Complex SimWorks. You can find more information on those, of course, on the description. You can find it, of course, in the CMS material. And, well, thank you to all of those sponsors for the series. And thank you to, of course, the wonderful work by our cameraman and producer, Ryan Bauer. Did a fantastic job, of course. And, Taylor, I think that's everything from us today.
That is everything, but the next time you can catch us is on Sunday, April 4th, as the CMS iRacing Team Endurance Series heads to Italy, to Monza, as we get ready for event number 4. But for everyone here of the CMS group and administration, for Rachel Whiteford, my co-host, for our wonderful producer, Ryan Bauer, I am Taylor Burris. Thank you so much for watching today's broadcast, and we will see you in Italy.